Police say Nichols ran from police after being pulled over on January 7th for reckless driving. Then they say there was a second confrontation before he was apprehended. Nichols was hospitalized in critical condition and died 3 days later. According to Memphis Police, Nichols complained of having shortness of breath, at which time an ambulance was called to the scene. On Friday, those 5 Memphis cops, all African-American, identified and fired for, according to the internal investigation, violating multiple department policies, including using excessive force and failure in their duty to render aid.
No justice! No peace!
The incident, though, fueling a wave of protest across the city, with Nichols' family, activists, and demonstrators demanding that those officers be charged with murder.
This is not just a professional failing. This is a failing of basic humanity toward another individual. This incident was heinous, reckless, and inhumane. And in the vein of transparency, when the video is released in the coming days, you will see this for yourselves. I expect you to feel what the Nichols family feels. I expect you to feel outrage in the disregard of basic human rights, as our police officers have taken an oath to do the opposite of what transpired on the video.
I guarantee you that he didn't just stop and follow direction of police officers. I can almost swear before God, this wasn't a traffic stop like when I got pulled over, where you stop and the officer say, show me your driver's license and insurance, and you show him your driver's license and insurance, and the officer asks you to do something and you do it. I can almost put my life on it that that's not what happened. I bet you that he didn't follow instructions. He didn't follow directions. There was some resistance. There was some fleeing. I haven't seen none of the body-worn camera footage, but I can put 2 and 2 together to say they could have been excessive in their use of force. They could have been wrong. But I guarantee you that this man wasn't just doing nothing, riding in his car, being a regular citizen. We shall see. And I will come back on the radio and say I'm wrong as 2 left shoes on an 8-legged man. If it comes to find out this man was just sitting in his car and was doing nothing and following every instruction, and 5 police officers just beat the snot out of him. I would almost want to bet I'd just quit the radio if that was the case. They just beat him up and he was just sitting in the car.
You got something in your back pocket? My wallet?
Man, listen. I ain't even, look, we got him out the car. We was like, hey, bro, you good? Oh, wow, almost hit me.
You reached for Martin gun,
Yeah, when he
slammed to the
yeah.
car.
He was on, he literally had his hand on Martin gun, like.
Me, man.
I don't know what that means. And he's strong.
He's strong.
Hey, he's strong as a
Mind that mother.
Hold on to something.
It's the goat, bro. It's more than goat.
That's more than dope.
He caught strong and high. That's what it is.
This whole thing could have been avoided if Tyre Nichols complies, if he does not resist arrest. That is a fact.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the BCV podcast. I am your host, Pastor SaikoWoods. Please do the following. Please like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell at the bottom of this video. That way, whenever I go live or post any content, you'll be one of the first to view it. Please also, if you don't mind, if this ministry has been a blessing to you, you can also support this ministry by clicking the donation information links below at the bottom of this video as well. If you'd like to support the BCV merchandise, you can do so by clicking the donation and merchandise information below at the bottom of this video. Thank you so much for those who are joining us. Thank you, the moderators who have joined in the chat. I just got a notification from Facebook. We covered your post because it made show graphic content. Let's see the video, please continue. Please continue. The post is covered. Continue on. Disagree because there's nothing that was violent in here. Yeah, these people would be tripping. Facebook is tripping. But Eric, you were right, my brother. He's in the green room. So but we'll continue on. Hopefully, those who are in Facebook, you can still see it. If not, come on over to the YouTube chat, and you should be able to watch the stream there. But we have a great show and topic for you all today. I'm joined with three former police officers. You should be familiar with all three of them. Eric Muldrow, Corey, brother Corey, just that quick. I think Davis, and brother Michael Bradley, but I'll let them introduce themselves in just a moment, and I'll be bringing them on momentarily. But please like, subscribe, and share the video. We want this information to get out, and so we want people to be informed, to be aware. We want to have a lively discussion. I believe we will definitely have a lively discussion. Some of you may be disappointed by what you may hear. Others you may not. But as Christians, we want to align ourselves with the Word of God, and at the same time, be people who are balanced and of the truth. And that's what we're called. We're called to be sanctified in the truth. God says He told us to be sanctified in the truth. His word is truth. And so let's be, hopefully by the end of this live, we will have a biblically informed and well-informed worldview regarding this situation here. So let's cut right to the chase. I'm going to bring my guests on and make sure I got this correct. There they go. Brother Eric, Brother Corey, Brother Mike. Welcome, y'all. Can y'all hear me good?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Listen, let's get right into this topic. Let's get right into the discussion. You gentlemen heard the clips. I'm pretty sure you all are aware of it. You guys have experience in law enforcement. So I want the guests, those who may not know who you are. I'll start with you first, Eric. Let people know about yourself and what your ministry is about. How long you've been in law enforcement? How many years you have experience in law enforcement? And what brings you on to the broadcast today?
Yes, sir. My name is Eric Muldrow. I'm the founder of Code Red Conversations. My law enforcement career began at the end of 1992 after I left the U.S. Army, where I served as a combat medic. I began working at Westville Correctional Center out of Westville, Indiana, maximum security prison. I worked there for about three and a half years. In 1996, I hired on with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, where for the first 10 years, I worked in the county jail here in Vegas. Then I decided to transfer out in 2006, where I finished out my career as a patrol officer from 2006, where I ultimately retired in 2014. During that time, I had some pretty cool opportunities to work in the capacity of a defensive tactics instructor, firearms instructor, active shooter response instructor. I was a gang officer, gang response, gang intelligence officer. I had some pretty cool gigs throughout the course of my career, man. And in 2018, I started Code Red Conversations. Once I started seeing the debate, the heated debate and conversations and discussions about law enforcement, so many people assuming they know the job when they really don't know. So instead of just constantly posting this information on social media, which is awesome if you do that, but I wanted to reach a broader audience to bring a different perspective. In particularly as a Black man, most importantly, as a Christian man, I wanted to present my perspective to give a balance, in hopes of giving a balanced and well-rounded response to a lot of the argumentation about what's a good police use of force. Nowadays, recently though, I decided to transition a bit into discussing broader issues, pop culture issues, politics, you name it, in regard and from a biblical perspective, biblical worldview perspective. I still do the law enforcement issues. I did a 2-hour live talking about this, but I want to address all the issues that are going on in our culture to help people understand these things better. And I'm here tonight, man, because there's a lot of discussion about this, and I just wanted to lend my voice, and hopefully I think most of us will be in agreement for the most part, but I just wanted to lend a voice to these issues and try to help people better navigate through some of these concerns that they may have.
Well, brother, I definitely appreciate your insight. Looking forward to hearing your wisdom. Brother Corey, welcome to the broadcast. Man, let people know a bit about yourself, how many years of law enforcement experience you have. Let them know about your ministry, your channel, who you partner with, and what brings you on today.
Good deal. Well, thank you for having us, Seiko. Really appreciate it. My name is Corey Taylor. I am a retired Navy Chief Petty Officer. I did 21 years in the Navy, stationed throughout the United States and overseas. So I won't bore you with everywhere I've been, but I've done 4 tours in Iraq. So I've been through a lot of defensive tactics schools and close quarter combat schools. After I retired, I then joined the Virginia State Police. I was a Virginia State trooper for 7 years. And then I started a business of my own. And then here comes good old Corona. And had to shut it down. So now I am a pretrial officer / probation officer.
Wow.
So getting a different perspective of law enforcement from the court side now. So what happened was I am the creator of the Brothers-in-Law, and my partner Mike Bradley, who's here tonight with us as well. I came to him a little over a year ago now, asking if he could do the YouTube channel with me.
Mm-hmm.
So he came up with Brothers-in-Law because, long story short, Mike and I are childhood best friends.
Mm-hmm.
We grew up together, and we actually, at the high school, went our separate ways. He went into the Army. He'll tell you into the Army, but Facebook kind of brought us back together.
Yeah.
So when George Floyd happened, I was tossing and turning one night, 2-3 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, just had this passion come over me, like I really need to do something. Like this should not be happening, right? I've conducted a lot of traffic stops over the years, and none of my traffic stops ended with anybody getting hurt or killed.
Yeah.
And I always wondered, what is it that officers want from the citizens? When I approached the vehicle, I expected that citizen to act a certain way, as just as well as the citizen expects that officer to act a certain way. So I came up with the acronym of CALM, which stands for comply, answer questions, listen, and move on. And that's what I wanted. If I interacted with you, I wanted you to comply. I wanted you to answer questions. Now, not the fact that you were going to incriminate yourself or any hoopla like that. Just general concepts. If I was doing an actual investigation for that, I would go ahead and read you the rights, Mirandaize you, and then you don't have to answer anything. You still don't have to answer anything. But I always say, well, if you didn't do nothing, then what's the harm of answering a question?
Right.
Listen to then what I'm telling you to do. How to go to court, where to take care of this fine. Hey, what's the next steps that you need to focus on? So that's the L, the listening, and then move on. No matter if I was taking you to jail or I was writing you a summons, we call them summons, or tickets, you get to move on. You get to go on with your day, with your life.
Right.
And that's how I came up with the acronym. So I presented this to Mike and asked him if he would like to start the YouTube channel with me, where we talk about police uh, incidents that take place throughout the country, and we discuss whether or not if this is what keyword reasonable officer would do
Yeah.
in these situations, and what would the outcome be if they follow the acronym of CALM. So
Mm.
that's where we are now, and God has been good. That we've gotten a lot of good feedback about our show, and it's again we're the brothers-in-law over on YouTube, and just glad to be here to voice our opinions on this, give our analysis on the actions of these officers, and like Eric said, we're more likely probably going to be in agreement on this,
Mm.
and rightfully so. But we're going to say things like Eric said as well that you may agree with, you may disagree with,
Yeah.
but it's got to be talked about.
Absolutely. I appreciate you coming on, my brother. And last but not least, brother Mike Bradley, man, thank you for coming on. Let people know about yourself, how many years of law enforcement you have, what brings you here, and what do you wish to contribute to the broadcast, my brother. Go right ahead.
All right. First of all, thanks for having me on the show too. Me and Corey, we do this show. I have a 25-year law enforcement career, retired police officer. I started my career in law enforcement after a 6-year term in the Army. Served about 3 or 4 different stations in the Army. Great experience, good start in my life. But my law enforcement career, I'm one of those guys who I'm not somebody who wanted to be a police officer since I was a kid. I didn't even think about being a police officer until I was getting ready to get out of the military. But I did so in a town called Pleasanton, California, which is in Northern California. It's close to the Interstate 580 and 680 interchange. If you're not familiar with that area, kind of like the Bay Area, I would say just outside the Bay Area. Most of my career was in patrol. I was a patrol officer. I was the one when you called the police, I was the one that responded to that call. I was the one doing the traffic stops. If you got pulled over, that was me. I also did stints in the crime prevention unit where we talked about neighborhood watch programs, things like that, teaching people how to protect themselves and prevent crime. More of the community education aspect is what I like to say what the crime prevention unit was. But most of my career was a beat cop, street cop. I enjoyed it, retired from it. The parts about it I miss, parts about it I don't miss. But when Corey hit me up, Corey explained what our show on YouTube is about, brothers-in-law. When he hit me up about it, I thought it was a great idea. I thought it was a way to educate the community on what police officers do, why they do it, what would be in a police officer's mind in a particular situation. So I thought that was important because what I saw in the media in a lot of these police shootings, I saw that there was a lot of just regular citizens, law-abiding citizens, who really were in fear of the police and what they should do and what they shouldn't do if they got contacted by police. So I thought that this program was great to educate people on simply what they should and should not do when they are contacted by police. Now, we all know that criminals ain't going to do the right thing, right? But law-abiding, regular, everyday citizens who get pulled over by police, that was really the target that I saw that our show was trying to get to. And it was just education. And we still do that. I think we do that pretty successfully. Corey and I give you our view on a police situation without involving personal feelings, without involving race, without involving any of that extra stuff or outside stuff that the media likes to throw in there. We want to give you an honest opinion of whether we would have done that as reasonable officers or whether we wouldn't have done that as reasonable officers. And that's it. That's what we like to do.
Man, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. So let me bring all 4 of us on here and let's see. There we are. So I got some clips I already played earlier and you all heard it and saw it. I'm pretty sure again, you on your channels, you have addressed it. So let me just go ahead and just ask you brothers, man, what was your initial response and reaction to the video you saw regarding Tyre Daniels, being I guess you can say beaten. But I know that there are things that was prior that occurred to that. And we're going to talk about that. But of course, what people see is what the media shows and what we actually have before us, and not always the background or the backstory to it. So Corey, let me just ask you first, what was your initial reaction or response when you saw the video?
I know we are keeping God first, but cover your ears on this and forgive me. When I first saw this, I was like, oh shit, this is bad.
Okay.
This is bad. Without knowing the full scope of it, for me, we always talk about on our show, don't rush to judgment, don't jump to conclusions. Let's see, because the first articles that came out was very vague about what happened.
Mm-hmm.
All you heard was there was a pursuit, and he got out the car and ran, and next thing you know, he died. So the news articles are very vague on what details of that incident happened. Then when you see the video, I was like, yeah, this is not good.
Mm-hmm.
This is not good. So, but for me, I still have a question. They said this was a pursuit. So
Sure.
for me to put in a context, for me, I want to see the video of that pursuit,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because the way they came at him and just snatched him out the car, is that wrong or is that right? I would say I need to see the beginning of it. I need to see that pursuit. Why? Because I've been in pursuits, and there have been times when I went up to car and I just snatched you out the car.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in pursuits where I've gotten out and I drew down on the person in the car and got them out. So, they didn't use any tactics that were taught, that at least in our academy, that were taught. And so again, to your question, yeah, I was a little upset when I saw that. I was like, here we go. This is not going to be good.
Okay. Mike, what about you? When you first saw the video, the footage?
I was the same way. I was quite disappointed when the video that I saw when they were punching and kicking this suspect. It just seemed like there was no rhyme or reason to what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
It just seemed like they looked like untrained thugs over there handling this suspect.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there were two parts to that video. I'm sure everybody has seen the videos by now, but the first part covers part of the traffic stop. And the second part covers when they caught up to him after he ran. It was one of those things that it's always a black eye in law enforcement, I think, when you see officers using excessive force, especially to this degree, where, it didn't make any sense. They
Right.
just seemed like it was quite disappointing, to say the least. It was almost embarrassing to me for them to be in this profession, because I think whether you're a current police officer, you're a retired police officer, it's hard to look at someone else in your profession doing something way off of left field. You see what I'm saying? To where it's like, hey, now this is why parts of the community are like, hey, this is crazy. Yeah, we are, as officers, I'm saying that's crazy too when I see stuff that's extreme or something that I would say is excessive force. You know what I'm saying? And you try to explain certain things, and some things you just can't explain because it's flat out wrong. So yeah, I was quite disappointed, to say the least, when I saw that video. Was I shocked? I don't know if I was shocked, because as police officers, as much as we like to think that we're all doing the job the same way, you know what I'm saying? That's just simply not the case across the country.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And that's how.
Brother Eric, your thoughts when you saw the initial video, first reaction? What were your thoughts about it?
Yeah, it's pretty much in line with what the other two brothers were saying. I like how Mike put it, how he broke it down. No rhyme or reason to what they were doing when they were. I mean, I'm talking everything from in my opinion, from the initial stop
Yeah.
It was totally disorganized, utter chaos, how things went down. If what they're saying is true, I spoke about this yesterday on my channel during the live that I did. You had every cop there screaming at this dude, giving him different orders or get on the ground and making it difficult for him to be able to comply.
Yeah.
We're taught in training, police training, that one person gives verbal commands, one person at a time. That way it makes it clear so that the subject, the citizen can hear what they're being commanded to do or asked to do, and then hopefully they'll comply. But when you got however many people were there initially, screaming, yelling, cussing, ballistic, no common sense, no control whatsoever. Of course, that made everything that went down. Let's just say when they said that this guy was driving on the wrong side of the road, driving recklessly. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that's all true.
Yeah.
My question is, was their actions? I can understand being upset and angry when you're stopping somebody who's driving, potentially putting other people's lives at risk.
Mm-hmm.
But did it warrant that level of anger during the initial stop? So that's my first issue, was that there was poor communication, poor tactics used on the officers initially. And then again, when Mike said they look like untrained thugs, in my mind, from beginning to end, even more so when it got to the point where they're holding this dude.
Right.
They're saying, "Give me your hands," but they stand him up. They're holding his hands behind him while one dude's just throwing, as he's articulated, haymakers.
Haymakers, yeah.
And you see his head swinging. They're kicking him while he's on the ground, kicking him in the head, hitting him with the baton. Man, that's based on his actions. From what I saw, none of that was justified. None of that. And I was a defensive tactics instructor. I taught those tactics during my time in policing. Not only did I learn how to apply that on my own, we're not even talking about my years of martial arts training from when I was a teenager, pretty much all the way through my adult life. But what I saw were people who were, from what I saw, and this is just making an assumption because I don't know everything that went down with that division, that whole section, but there's rumors popping up talking about their history, potential, some of the things that they've done in the past. Like I said, we might get into that a little bit later.
Sure.
What I saw was Training Day, or the Rampart Division 2.0. That's what I saw.
Yeah.
Because I saw people who were used to doing whatever they choose to do, whatever they want to do, and getting away with it.
Right.
That part.
And my mindset was that they probably justified it because they're operating and functioning and working in a city with one of the highest crime rates in the nation. When you're talking about Memphis, Tennessee, so they probably justified it by, man, we're taking these people off the streets, we're keeping this town safe, and against these criminals. So, but yeah, I saw utter chaos, and it's just another black eye, unfortunately, on law enforcement.
What are your thoughts about this? Would it be safe for me to say this? Because again, you guys are the police officers. You're all the ones with the experience. I'm just a pastor, just a person that just observes things and try to think things through biblically. But I can't help but notice the unjust scales regarding the situation. And what I mean by that is this: we as black folk have a bias, even when it comes to our own, when it pertains to justice or injustice perpetrated against us. If these were all white officers, if all 5 of those officers were white, how much press coverage do you think the media would have given this situation? I from what I've observed, there's not been that much full court pressure on from the media to have that equal balance and equal outrage regarding black officers doing the same thing to another black citizen or individual. But if these were all white officers, I guarantee you, if this was a situation like a Rodney King, I don't see how Memphis would still be standing. And that's just my thoughts. That's just my perspective, just based on how I've seen the media, move and what the media does when it comes to this. Because we know this would have been a racial issue, even if it wasn't. They would have made it, and now they're trying to make it a racial issue, saying that it's white supremacy. But bro, you had black guys doing this. So how is this a white supremacy issue?
Well, that's a hard question to answer. I think you will always have folks that will always want to turn it into a racial issue.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you can get around that, because you're not going to change people's perceptions. You're not going to change people's opinions when it comes to whether they believe something is a racial issue. Now with this particular incident, yeah, I agree with you. If these were 5 white officers, I think they would have burned them cities down by now. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But the protest seems a whole lot more controlled at this particular time. Probably because, I don't know. I mean, probably because they are 5 black officers. Dare I say that the protests, things I think would have been a lot worse had these been 5 white officers. Very possible.
Yeah.
But we can sit here and talk all day about, argue about whether this is a racial issue or not. I mean, people who are hell bent on making this a racial issue will always say, they will play and put the race card in there wherever they can fit it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But look, Corey and Corey can speak for himself, but that when you look at this particular incident, there is still basic policing tactics that you can look at as a former officer and say, was that reasonable or not? Whether the guys were racist or not, whether racist involved in this or not, the facts are the facts.
Right.
Eric had mentioned something about the initial traffic stop, how amped up they were when they first made the contact with this guy in the car. Okay, they stopped him for reckless driving. Okay, the way they were amped up, to me, that didn't make sense as a former officer. You know what I'm saying? Only reason I'm ramped up like that to the point of where I'm yanking you out of the car is if I would have been in a pursuit with you or something. So that was in my mind, like, were they in a pursuit with this guy in the car, like before he ran on foot? Did he flee from them in the cars too? I don't know, because that didn't add up to me. Why they were so amped up and yanking this guy out of the car? So that was something I needed to answer to, because that didn't make sense to me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm gonna let the other brothers talk.
Yeah. Go ahead, Corey.
That's Mike said a key word, and we harp on that on our videos. Is this what a reasonable officer would do?
Mm-hmm.
And we always say, Mike and I like to call ourselves, we were reasonable officers. We did things within reason. Nothing these guys did. They were taught. They were straight hood. This was straight hood. Now there were some special unit, whatever, called Scorpions, something other they were doing.
Yeah.
I get that. I get the language. I get the language part. I can look past the language part, how they were talking and everything. And I say that because I was on a special assignment a few years ago, and it's where we flood a whole bunch of 3-letter agencies, all state, local guys. We all partner up and went to one of the roughest cities in the area, and just interact with the people, with the public.
Right.
And I got paired up with 2 detectives, and these were young brothers. I think they were like 20. One was 26, the other one like 28. They were young. And we go and talk to one brother. We were in the hood, and it was MF in that, and I'm standing back like, what? He was talking to these people like this. So when we left, I said, hey, let me ask you guys something. I said, y'all allowed to talk to the citizens like this? And they said, well, they get a little leeway, right? He said, and it made sense to me. He said, because, when you're out here in these streets working with these guys, you have to get down to their level. I said, okay. I said, because state police, you're not doing that kind of way and manner. So I questioned them about that. Hey, is this right? Is this what you guys do? You're allowed to do this, and they're like, yeah, we can get down to their level. Now we didn't talk tactics. Now you get into the tactics part. That's what they're doing. I think I'd have been that brother than been in and stopped and said, we're not doing it because now you making me look bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going out like that because I always tell these guys, because I was also a field training officer, FTO we call them. So when I had my young rookies coming out the academy, that's rule number one. Don't do nothing stupid. And if I see you doing something stupid, I'm gonna pull you back.
Right.
There was no structure there. You didn't know who was in charge. Right? Like Eric said, they're all barking orders. Hey, do this, do that. Well, who do you listen to? Right? This guy's saying get on your stomach. This guy's saying get on your back. This guy says give me your hand. This guy says put your hand on top of your head. Who do you listen to? And this is why we train to, when we have situations like this, we've always been trained. There's only one person that talks, and that's the one who initiates the stop.
Oh, okay.
Or who's initiating the search warrant. Whoever's the lead on something, that's the one that's giving the commands, not 15 million other people. Another issue I had with it is the OC spray. You don't use your OC spray like these guys did. When you have multiple guys spraying at the same time, to the point where one of them gets some of the spray on him and he can no longer, partake in it.
Right.
But then he still gets back in it.
Yeah.
And who does that? And you're not trained to use your ass like that. So that part right there, I had somebody say to me the other day, he thinks that these guys are prodigy. I said, no, they're going to get convicted. I said, because they follow zero basic tactics that you learn in training. Eric, correct me if I'm wrong. That was way out left center field. You were never taught any of those tactics that those guys use. Why they acted in that manner? Go ahead.
The most obvious. You're right. And I'm gonna let Eric get in here too. But the most obvious stuff to me was, okay, the punching in the head, the kicking in the head. When they had this guy on the ground, there seemed to be no rhyme or reason to what they were trying to do. They were wanting to put his hands behind his back to get him cuffed. But no one was saying, okay, I got the legs, you got the upper torso. I've been in fights with dudes on the ground like that, trying to get them handcuffed. It is not easy. But we are actually on top of them in a wrestling type of position most of the time, trying to actually physically control them and physically pull their arms behind their back. When you resist, it's hard to do that. But these guys, to me, from what I saw in the video, it didn't seem like they were making any effort to physically grab this guy's arms to the point where they are trying to cuff him. And then when they pulled him up in this standing position, okay, first of all, you ain't gonna pull him up in a standing position unless you have him successfully cuffed. And once he's cuffed, that's it. We're done. You know what I'm saying? You cuffed, you are made safe at that point. Okay, obviously I'm gonna search you to make sure you ain't got no weapons on you, but you are cuffed, safely cuffed, and that's it. There is no more struggling at that point. It's over. Okay,
Yeah.
You cuffed.
Yeah.
All right?
Right.
But these dudes it was just some straight thug stuff. I didn't understand any of the excessive force that they use. I don't see how they could justify that. And Eric said it earlier. These guys seem like they were very comfortable in what they were doing. Like they had done this before, and that's normally how they deal with people fleeing from the police. Okay.
I wanted to add. I wanted to add one point, because the thing that baffled my mind is that they did all of this knowing that they were going to be recorded, knowing that there were cameras on the street. So for me, this is just me. It shows how blind rage can be when you're not even thinking about what you're just like, bro, you have the equipment on you, and showing every move that you're making. Not only that, but it seems like you said that this is not the first time. I mean, it just seems like, maybe, I guess now first time y'all got caught, but we won't know it. But there is a history of one or two of the officers that has done, has made some offensive. I think one guy was in the prison. He slammed the guy on his face. And the federal judge basically didn't do anything about the case because they said he had to have the proper paperwork or something to that effect. But my thing is when I think about this kind of stuff, and again, I'm just going to a biblical precept on this. So I'm sorry, let me go back real quick. My fault. Let me go back real quick. So I want to show you something, because this is what I believe this stuff boils down to, and where it stems from. The anger of man. The anger of man. So let me see if I can share my screen again. There we go. Can y'all see it?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
All right. Let me go back then, because I think it might be having my little. I think the viewers can see it, but maybe y'all can't.
I can see it.
Yeah.
Oh, y'all can't see it. Okay. So this is James 1. This is James 1:19 and 20. This, my beloved brethren, but everyone must be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger. Why? Verse 20. For the anger of man does not achieve the righteousness of God. I believe that right there is key. The anger of man. There was nothing that these men did that warranted this kind of behavior. Nothing. I mean, it was. And I will say this. I understand people are going to say he should have complied. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Let's just deal with the fact that even though he didn't comply, are we saying that this is still justified? Are we still saying that this is justifiable behavior, all because he did not do what he was supposed to do? Yeah, there's cause and effect, but last time I checked, every man is going to be held responsible for their actions. The provocateur and the one that was provoked. It doesn't matter, because you're responsible for what you do. I can't make you do anything, to be honest with you. What I believe, what was in these men came out of these men, and it was an opportunity right there that presented itself. That's what I see. And so I want to go back to the screen real quick, because I want to show you two more verses here. Because in verse 19 of James 1, notice what it says in Proverbs 16:32. He who is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he who rules his spirit than he who captures the city. Ecclesiastes 7:9. Do not be eager in your heart to be angry. Why? For anger resides in the bosom of fools. And that is what I believe we saw in that video. A bunch of fools on camera. A bunch of fools who let their emotions go run amok, and man is dead because they abuse power. And then, like you said, this man was handcuffed. So where's the threat? Where's the threat? Where was this man now a danger when you had him cuffed, you had him down, and yet you still wailing on this guy? I mean, from my outside looking in, you can't convince me that this was justified in any shape, form, or fashion. That's just mine.
Yeah, when you really get down to it, man, you made the statement of blind rage. I see that to an extent, but I also see calculated actions.
Sure.
In my mind. Sure. They're again, going back to what I said earlier and what the other brother said, that these were opportunities or situations that they've been in before, because they were quick to go there. And then when you talked about knowing you're going to be recorded, did you notice the scene where the one guy, before he starts talking about throwing them haymakers, he's like, hold on 1 second.
He sure did. He took
the camera off.
He sure
sits
did.
it down, walks away from it, thinking that he's outside of earshot of the audio of the microphone, but he's not.
Right.
So what does that show? That shows premeditation. And how many times has that happened in the past, where they've done something similar? Cover their camera, turn it off, take it off, put it face down while they quote unquote go to work. These men knew exactly what they were doing. Right. And the only reason, in my mind, that this became a public thing was because this dude died. And the injuries were too severe to cover up. Right. That dude just ended up in the hospital. went home with some injuries, or just got beat up, got roughed up, ended up going to jail, or spent just had a couple of nicks and bruises and ended up making it to going to jail, we probably never would have heard of this. Who knows how far this thing stretches when it comes to this whole Scorpion unit? Is it something that they're getting these recordings and they're deleting them? Of course, this is speculation on our part when we talk about these things, but clearly, and this point will probably be repeated throughout the course of our conversation this evening. There were opportunities, or these men did what they knew they can get away with, and being recorded. If it's on their body camera, I'm pretty sure they most likely had some level of control over that. Yeah. I don't know what the other fellas think about that.
Yeah, we matter of fact, I can't picture being in law enforcement and doing that job without a body camera, first of all. But we carried body cameras for many years up until I retired. Up to the point when I retired, and they still carry body cameras. We have to manually hit that button to record it. Although when you hit that button, it will record, if I recall, it will record 30 seconds of footage up to before you hit that button, when you hit that button. But it won't have audio. It'll just have video footage. And then you hit the button again to stop it from recording. Now, we couldn't go in, once it's recorded, as a patrol officer, we didn't have the ability to go in and erase the video. It was automatically uploaded into a database with the department, basically, and you had someone in management that was able to view that, who frequently did. You know what I'm saying? And they had the control of that video at that point. So body cameras are important to have. They're important to use. Do they get knocked off in scuffles? Do they have, sometimes it don't work. I've had plenty of times where my body camera got knocked off during a scuffle. You know what I'm saying? It's on the floor. You know what I'm saying? Luckily, the partners would have a body camera that's looking. But yeah, these guys, like Eric's saying, I think they're comfortable operating in a certain way, in a certain environment, that I don't think they thought anything was wrong with what they did. The guy throwing haymaker punches, he's done that before, it looks like. This ain't just one exclusive incident. Now this is my belief, this ain't just one exclusive incident where he decided to throw some haymakers at a dude standing up who's cuffed, okay? Or the guy who decided to go and do a soccer kick on his head. That is something that you were comfortable doing at that time. You had been comfortable doing that before, and I doubt that's the first time you had ever done that. Okay? Now, the question comes down to, when you have these quote-unquote special units, and they are used to behaving and operating within certain parameters, how do you correct that? One of the things I had heard is this particular agency lacks supervision. They don't have a lot of supervisors. They don't have a lot of sergeants, if you will, on the street to monitor these types of activities. That's important, okay? In our department, every special unit we had a sergeant that was attached to that special unit. We had special units along the lines of a Scorpion unit too, but there was a sergeant attached to that unit and went out with these guys when they did their things. You know what I'm saying? There was somebody, there was always some checks and balances.
Right.
Maybe there wasn't any checks and balances, it sounds like, in this particular unit. And I don't want to discourage people by saying, oh, cops shouldn't have special units. Of course they should have special units, especially in these larger cities with dealing with different types of crimes. It's my understanding that Memphis had a very high crime rate that caused them to develop this particular unit.
Right.
But like I say, wrong is wrong. I mean, excessive is excessive, no matter what unit you in, whether you patrol or whatever you do. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you just can't get around that. And I know we're going to start talking about the other side of this as far as complying in a minute. But first, I think people, like you said, I think you said it a minute ago, Saiko, you can't really start talking about he should have complied when the end result of him not complying is you lost your life based on what these officers did excessively.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then they were talking about the traffic stop. Well, one of the charges I understand was kidnapping, and I didn't understand that either.
Yep.
The only way I can understand that is if the original stop, the traffic stop, was illegal. If they didn't have any reason to stop this person from the jump, then everything after that is thrown out. It's all don't count, basically.
Wow.
You know, name it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's important. You know what I'm saying? What I don't know. Let me hear what the other brothers.
So I was going to add this because tell me if you all agree with this statement. I remember Larry Elder saying, commenting about body cameras, and I didn't agree with his statement. He said that that body cameras are really for the police to be protected from the citizens, and I partly agree with that. But now, as I look at things, it seems now it's that you got cops that are doing stuff even with these body cameras on. Yes, do citizens lie? Of course they do, but so do cops. So I believe it's a safety measure for both, because how do you know what happened? And most of the time, before body cameras were dawned on police officers, the officer's word was their bond. That was it. What if they said you did this? That's what you did. It didn't matter. So it's kind of like you're going to school and the teacher could lie on the child and you get the whipping, but you didn't do anything wrong. So I believe it serves both purposes. But it seemed like Larry Elder was more siding with the police with the body cameras than it being a balanced view with that. So I guess my thing is I want to know what you all thought about that. Are you in favor of body cameras as well? Or when y'all were active police officers, did you have a problem, having those on? Did you feel like it was infringing your rights, or did you feel like it would be beneficial for both you and the citizens that you encounter in case there were an issue that needed to be, verified?
I want to answer that.
I'll say this. I'll start.
Go ahead, Corey.
Because we did not have body cameras. So for me, that really, we had in-car cameras. Mm-hmm. All right. So I always made sure I did everything in front of view of that camera. Now, the situation always going to dictate there was going to be times where I'm not going to be able to be in front of the camera, right? Mount on the car. But to be honest, and this is just me because I know my character, I know who I am, and what type of officer I was. I wasn't a crooked guy. I was there to serve the public, and that's what I did. So for me, not having that camera, Seiko, it really kept me more in check because I really was like paranoid to make sure I didn't do anything that was going to jeopardize my career.
Yeah.
So I was appreciative of really not having it, but I really wanted it because I knew the value of having a body camera, and Mike can attest to that. Yeah. But it kept me more sharp. It kept me more on my P's and Q's to make sure I always had my I's dotted and T's crossed every time I was interacting with the public. If I can real quick, I want to go back to what Mike had said about there are no supervisors or anything out there on scene. Mm-hmm. From what I know in the special TAC team that we have for our state, there was always a supervisor assigned to that unit, and they were out there on the calls with our guys. So I don't know why here this wasn't the case. Now, any patrol, the supervisor you always have one supervisor for every shift. And typically for us, when we called them out, it was usually use of force or fatality, something serious where supervisors need to be out on the scene. But this year, I was a little upset that there was at no time even after they got him handcuffed, nobody got on the phone and say, "Hey, anybody call the supervisor?" Or did they go over the radio and say, "Hey, notify a supervisor and let them know what we got. Hey, we had to use the use of force."
Yeah.
That was mandatory. You had to do those things for us. Like don't And the supervisor, somebody's always monitoring the radio. So at that point, hey, somebody need to get on the radio or call the supervisor and say, hey, I just had to use of force. I have done it. Out of breath, fighting on the side of the road. Hey, sorry, you need to come out. Had to use of force. Give him a little debrief of what happened. And he's like, all right, I'm on my way. And they come out. Or we had good dispatchers. Dispatchers know when to call out a supervisor. At no point throughout this, did I hear anybody say, get a hold of a supervisor, or did a supervisor ever show up? I don't even know if a supervisor showed up. Did y'all see a supervisor show up in the video?
No, and that's all I was going to ask, because I heard him say in the video, when I heard somebody say, are you going to bring him down here? And they're like, oh, no, man. They need to come up here. Something outside. I don't know who that was.
I thought that was for the and that's another thing I get on that was for the paramedics. They weren't going to walk back down there. And that really pissed me off. Like, military, we're always taught to give first aid. Anytime you have an incident, we're taught first aid as law enforcement to give our own self first aid, basic first aid. If you are in a scuffle with somebody and that person's now in your detention, or you arrested them, they're in handcuffs, it is your responsibility to render aid to that individual. They did no such thing. They drug him and set him up against the car.
Yeah.
And they were more concerned about themselves than they were about the citizen. So my number one rule is, and I always took my military training with me. And last time I was in Iraq, our mission campaign was to win the hearts and minds. Win the hearts and minds. And what does that mean? Well, we go out here, we go interact with the public, and we show that we are human, that we have something, we have compassion. So when I interact with the citizens, even when I got done fighting with you, I still treated you with some dignity. Even though I know in my head you're a piece of crap for what you did, I still, hey man, you're okay? You need medical assistance? Here, put this on. You need some water? Whatever the case may be. I made sure your needs were met, even though we could probably say, that dude's worthless. And we've all said it. Even every guest in your chat has probably said, that dude's a piece of crap. Yeah, but you still got to treat them with some type of dignity.
Right.
And these guys didn't do that. And that really set me off.
They also said, I think they said he was on drugs. They assumed that he was on drugs. They assumed, yeah. And they said that he on that stuff, man. He high, man. That's that stuff. And I'm like, wow, okay. So, and I don't know if there was any evidence found or anything like that in the toxicology report that was taken. Eric, I want to ask you this question. So, in light of this that has happened, what has been your take, I guess, when it comes to the issue of compliance? And so let's just go there, because I want to play this clip, and I played it earlier, but I want to know, would you agree with what ABL said, when he had made this statement? So I'm gonna play the clip right now.
This whole thing could have been avoided if Tyre Nichols complies, if he does not resist arrest. That is a fact.
That's it.
Yep, that's it.
There's a high probability that there's a good amount of truth to that. Let's, for a second, just for a moment, let's take away everything that happened after he ran. Let's just take that away, just for the sake of conversation, just for this moment. I say this, and I know these. Mike and Corey will agree with me on this. We repeat this over and over again from the content that I've seen from their channel, from the things that I share repeatedly on mine, is the necessity of compliance on the part of the citizen who comes in contact with the officer, regardless of their behavior. One thing, had he not, first of all, I'll say this was pretty much in the middle of the street. So
Right.
you're talking about high traffic area, high traffic, a lot of eyes on that situation. Now, were they escalating the matter, potentially making it worse by all the chaos and the screaming and yelling and nonsense and the cussing and threatening to break the dude's arm and effing him up and all that kind of stuff? Yeah. At the same time, I would garner to guess that had he just rolled over and did all the things that they wanted to do, this situation probably could have de-escalated on its own, potentially. There's some people I know, I've heard this over the years in law enforcement. Man, if I got to chase you down, if I got to run after you, you best believe you're going to get a whooping. You best believe that's coming.
I heard
Not
that
too. Silly, stupid talk in my mind. If it's that serious, if I felt like that, like honestly, depending on the crime, me personally, if it was something minor, I ain't chasing it. If it's something major, oh yeah, I'm running you down. But the factor of compliance, we can't say 100%, especially considering how out of control these dudes were acting. We can't say that 100%. But I would dare say 9 times out of 10, 99 out of 100 times, in most situations, and let me pull back. I would even go as far as to say, in the vast majority of situations that we've seen, all the popular or mainstream, highly, noted police uses of force, where someone ended up dead or extremely injured, if you were to go back to the very beginning of the encounter, you name him, Jacob Blake, George Floyd,
Sandra Bland.
Exactly, Bland, Rayshard Brooks,
Yep,
Alton Sterling, the vast majority, I'm not saying all, but in the vast majority of these cases, had these individuals listened to the officers, complied, they would still be alive today, most likely.
Yeah.
So, and that's something that the media has created an atmosphere to where it almost justifies running. Man, you don't know what that dude's going to do. Man, I'd run too. That's just being ignorant. Let's be real. When we're talking about the majority of situations, the majority of circumstances, when it's all said and done, I'll wrap it up so the other brothers can comment. Compliance saves lives. Bottom line.
I like that.
Period.
I like that. That. I mean, I know it sounds like we're switching it up a little.
Can I put this comment up here and let y'all respond to this?
Go ahead.
Patrice Patrick said he did comply. They kept beating him from the get-go. That's not true.
No, he didn't comply at first from the traffic stop. He broke free and took off and running.
Right. So that's not compliance.
However,
right.
I want to make it clear that when we talk about compliance part, we switched tempo here on this particular incident. When we talk about compliance, we're talking about that side of what possibly could, facts are facts, what possibly could have prevented this from happening to the end result. It's facts that it could have prevented what ended up happening.
Right.
Compliance does save lives. Corey and I, we preach that compliance all the time. That's the first acronym in our first letter in our acronym, CALM. Comply. I agree with Eric that it seems like the media and social media or whatever media you're talking about seems like they've made it almost excusable to take off running or to not comply.
Mm-hmm.
People seem to have the first instinct is to fight on the street before they argue in court. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
They want to get physical and fight and resist. You can't do that to me. I don't have to do that. I'm not going to do what you tell me to do. They have a tendency to do that on the street instead of saying, okay, on the street, I'm good. I can do whatever you want me to do. But when we get to court, I'm going to argue that and sue your pants off your behind. You know what I'm saying? That people are more comfortable resisting and running. And I know that when we talk about compliance, people don't want to hear that generally when someone ultimately loses their life because of what the excessive forces that the officers use. And I understand that. I'm not saying that compliance is more important or has more of an impact in a situation than something that the officers did recklessly that
Right.
cause someone to lose their life. That's not what I'm saying. I'm
Right.
not we've already established that these officers acted like some fools. Punching and kicking was completely unacceptable. And hitting them, all that was unacceptable. I think we've established that. We're not saying that was excused in any form or fashion.
I want you guys to comment to these, respond to these comments, because
Yeah, can I? I just lost her now, but so we did a video last week about the brother that died in Los Angeles after being tased by the police, and so let's talk compliance. If you got your hands up like this, and I'm telling you to get down, get down, get down, and you just stand there and you say, okay, 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 but you're not making any movements to get down, are you complying?
No, you're not.
No. So if I go up and grab your arm and get you in a wrist lock and try to take you down to the ground, say get down, get down, get down, but yet you still trying to pull your arm up and say okay, 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 and you trying to break my lock, are you complying?
No, you're not.
No, you're not. So
No,
what do we have
and if
here?
you laying on your
Just are
stomach
you
with your
saying
arms
it?
tucked, go ahead, Corey.
Go ahead, Mike.
No, I was just gonna say, if you land on your arms with your arms tucked up underneath your chest, and I'm on top of you trying to get your arms behind your back, and you are stopping me from doing that, are you complying? No, you're not. If you take off running, you're not complying. If you arguing and not doing what the officer's telling you to do, you're not complying. People don't. But like I said, when someone loses their life, people take the light off of the compliance part and
Right.
put it on the life part. And
Right.
I understand why they do that, but based on this situation or any situation like this particular incident where someone was killed, that'll never cause me to change what I want the public to understand.
Right.
Which compliance is very important. People don't want to hear this.
Hey, Mike, you black, right? You're a black man, right? You a black man?
That's right.
You black man. Eric, I know you black. You black. Corey, you black. I'm black too. So you the light black, but all of us are black, and all of us are
I was a light skin, but
so all of us are agreeing on the compliance, right? So can I just ask, and I know it's a dumb question. Why are we as a people, and I know there are white folk that do it too, so I'm not trying to make it about color, but our society, our people are being killed, and unnecessarily so, I believe, for the first reason, for non-compliance. Why is that being spun? Why is that being presented as though non-compliance is a civil right?
Good question. Back in the 50s and 60s, when you got pulled over by police and you were in the wrong area, when racism was way much more obvious and prevalent in the country back in that time compared to today, you complied because you were really in fear of losing your life back then. Because those officers, those racist cops back in that era, may do
it was
something
clear.
like that.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So you didn't mess around. You did whatever they want you to do. But today, I agree with you, Seiko. That has changed and switched to where especially this younger generation, they are more likely to run, flee, not comply, argue. I really don't know. I really don't have an answer for that. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's a culture thing where they just feel, I don't know if entitled is the right word, but they feel more comfortable rebelling against authority. You see what I'm saying?
Let me throw this comment in here.
Please.
We have to look at the cultural shift that has taken place that's been being worked on probably for over 50 years, but we're seeing the true fruit of it going on now. This whole Marxist socialistic perspective that has been indoctrinated into our society, and we're seeing the fruit of it in every avenue, from the drag queen story hour to all the other nonsense that we're dealing with in our culture. that's moving us away from a biblical framework
Right.
and espousing Marxist rules. So you look at it like this, from the perspective of a Ilhan Omar or some of these Cori Bush. You referenced earlier, Corey, talking about some of these politicians and people who are training up our kids right now. America is built on a foundation of oppression and racism in and of itself. And every system, criminal justice system, which is what we're mainly focusing on tonight, criminal justice system is a product of that. And then they justify it by pointing to historical ills and evils, unquestionably, things that were done, abuses that took place in our past. We're not going to sit up here and try to justify any of that.
Right.
But to turn around and then try to say that those are the same issues that we're dealing with today. So in their mind, the mindset of a lot of these people is that the criminal justice system in and of itself is corrupt, it's racist, and it needs to be dismantled. And it's evil at its core. So why not run? Why not disobey? Why not fight the man, fight the power?
Right.
Why not push back against it? So we are dealing with a cultural mindset that is ingrained itself in our world, and one of the primary targets is Black folks. We're going all the way back to the Black Panther Party. We're going all the way, all the way back to many of the foundations of the civil rights movement were rooted in Marxist policies, and we're seeing now the fruit of it. And that's what we're dealing with now. So, yeah, you're the hero if you fight, if you push back, if you run. You're not wrong. That's why we see the criminal can be looked upon as being the saint. He's the hero. Right. Despite the evils that he did, the fact that he was killed by a police officer, now a lot of these people are being elevated to the point to where they're almost looked upon as being martyrs. So we have to deal with that. We have to deal with a lot of those foundational issues.
Exactly. I'm gonna populate this question. G. France said this. He said again, and I'm assuming it's a guy. Again, I asked, is there a time a person can get killed even if he or she comply? Yes, they can. Yes, there is a time. Nobody's saying it's foolproof, but I would rather comply than refuse to comply. Matter of fact, isn't that what the Bible says? It's better to suffer doing what is right and be punished than to not do what's right and be punished. He said, God says, what good is that? God gets no glory in you rebelling against authority. He said, it's best for you to do what's right and suffer for righteousness than to do what's wrong, and then you still make it because God gets no glory in that. So, and I guess I just thought that this was a Christian live. I just thought that maybe some people in here are not Christians. Maybe some people in here are not biblically astute to understand what we're talking about. So let me help you with something, okay? Let me help you with let me give you what the Word of God says. Give me one step. I'll read your comment just 1 second later. I'm gonna definitely read that one because that's a very good point. Romans chapter 13. I'm gonna go there. Romans 13. Every person is to be in subjection to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and those which exist are established by God. Therefore, whoever resists authority has opposed the ordinance of God, and they who have opposed will receive condemnation upon themselves. For rulers are not a cause of fear for good behavior, but for evil. Do you want to have no fear of authority? Do what is good, and you will have praise from the same. For it is a minister of God to you for good. But if you do what is evil, be afraid, for it does not bear the sword for nothing. For it is a minister of God, an avenger who brings wrath on the one who practices evil. Now, Paul writes this under Roman rule. They didn't have plush prisons and plush centers where criminals can go. And Paul writes this and says, this is how we are to conduct ourselves. This is how we are to submit to authority. And he says, all authority that exists has been ordained by God. All of it. We don't want to talk about that though. All of it. Whether you're in Russia, God ordained it. Whether you're in China, God ordained it. Whether you're in Bangladesh, God ordained it. He ordained it all. He says, submit to the governing authorities. Insofar as the governing authorities is not telling you to violate God's word or to sin against your fellow man. That's different. So My issue is like you brothers have said, we don't want to talk about compliance. We always want to talk about what the individual did. And I made it clear at the beginning of this live, both parties are responsible. Both parties are. These men, these 5 guys, they should go to jail. I even go as far as say this. You know what? And I'm just gonna say it. Based on the severity of this situation and what happened, and maybe y'all can help me understand why did he not get first-degree murder and only got second-degree? He can be in trouble with second-degree murder. Because if this man was already handcuffed and you're constantly beating him, that doesn't seem like this was something that it just happened. Seems to me as a calculated and a calculated act. That's just my thoughts on that. But I want to get you guys' thoughts on that because they're being charged with second-degree murder versus first. I'm not sure if they're going to get the death penalty. Matter of fact, have police officers ever gotten the death penalty?
I don't think so.
Not that I'm aware of.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, you figured out all the decades of law enforcement. I wouldn't be shocked if there was some, but I can't tell you anything off the top of my head.
And plus, I think you're getting into questions for a charging district attorney.
Sure.
Because there's rhymes and reasons for what they charge and why they charge it. The first degree murder, you guys correct me if I'm wrong if you know something different, but it's my understanding that for first degree murder, it would have to be something like you set out to kill this individual. You see what I'm saying?
So kicking that man, and I'm not pushing back on you, but kicking a man in the face, I mean, stepping back like you are a punter, and you kick this man in the face.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying.
The
severity on the spot is different from me 2 hours before saying, okay, this is John Smith. We're going to go and we're going to mess with John Smith. So, we're going to do this to John Smith. We're going to do that to John Smith. And we want to kill him. That is our goal and intent when we catch up to John Smith is that we're going to kill him. Okay. You got to prove that thought process in your head for first degree. Like if they did that, and then they caught it to him and carried out what they specifically planned before, then yeah, there you go. You plan to murder this person that you finally caught up to, and you did. You carried out your plan and you murdered this person. So
let me ask this question then. Okay, so it has to be. I agree with the premeditation aspect. So a man that is handcuffed and being held, they're not able to defend themselves. They're not able to even block a blow, and police officers are now wailing on that individual to the point to where he falls to the ground. And I'm saying, I'm not sure. Maybe the laws need to be changed. Or laws need to be amended on that. But when I think of premeditation as well too, if now that I see you defenseless, and I still continue to hit you until you don't move anymore, I'm just asking, could that not also be considered premeditated? Because you see this person, he can't defend himself. So you have him basically where you want him, and you beat this person to every inch of his life until he dies.
I would say, for me, I would have to look at their law, what their law states, what they need to have to meet in order to say we can charge you with first degree, because you want to get the charge right, because you
if you get it wrong, it gets thrown out.
Charge him high and he gets thrown out, and then you're going to get the second degree, then you're going to be upset.
So because I think they said in the camera, I mean on the video, hold him right there, and I mean, and he's leaning in on him. So I guess my struggle is how could that not be seen as premeditated? I mean, because what's the purpose of you hitting him and especially kicking him in his head? I mean, that's
my argument to that was the pre part. There's no pre. There's the meditated part, maybe, for lack of better words.
Yeah.
Pre is missing from that equation because he didn't know this dude before he stopped him. He didn't know what he was going to do leading up to the contact of this dude.
Okay.
He acted on whatever stupidity he had in his head at that moment. You see what I'm saying? Now, I'm
Gotcha.
not, like Corey's saying, I'd have to read. It's probably the same.
Sure. Yeah.
Fairly the same, and you'd have to look at the elements of that particular crime and see if you can prove all those elements for that particular crime. Again,
Gotcha.
we're not DAs. One thing we like to do with officers, when I was an officer, we would always get told, you don't do your job based on what the district attorney would do. If you need to make an arrest, you make an arrest. It's not up to you to charge someone with a crime. It's only up to you to arrest someone for a crime, whatever crimes you feel they have done, or you can apply to whatever they have done in that situation. But once that case gets forwarded up to the district attorney, that's their ball game, their arena. They decide. They can take charges off, they can add charges, they can change charges, whatever they decide to do. So that's really a question for the district attorney.
Sure.
Also remember too, the state has the burden of proof. Meaning it's the state's job to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that they did this. Can the state prove that this was premeditated?
Gotcha.
You can say, well, now you got to get into the mindset.
Right.
So you got to go, what led up to this? Can they prove that?
Gotcha.
If there's not enough facts there to prove there is premeditated, then that's why you're probably not getting the first degree and you're getting the second degree.
Let me ask you this question, and we'll move on. But I just want to ask one more question. Was Derek Chauvin charged?
Did you say, Seiko?
I'm sorry.
I put a file up to be shared for the screen.
My fault. Yeah, put it up again. I'm sorry. Where did it go? Let me see. I think this is it right here. This is it. There it is. Here we go.
Yeah, Tennessee. Just so we can kind of put articulate this and put this to rest and move on. Just when it comes to premeditation, a premeditated intention. This is first degree murder per Tennessee code, and if folks can look it up if they want to. But I'm going to read just the first and second one, then I'm going to scroll down to D, and where they articulate, first degree murder is a premeditated and intentional killing of another. So I'm going to scroll down to D, where it defines premeditated. Is it working as far as?
Yeah. I'm just moving the screen over a little bit.
Yeah, D, as used in subdivision A1, premeditation is an act done after the exercise of reflection and judgment. Premeditation means that the intent to kill must have been formed prior to the act itself. It is not necessarily the purpose to kill it's not necessary that the purpose to kill pre-exists in the mind of the accused for a definite period of time. The mental state of the accused at the time the accused allegedly decided to kill must be carefully considered in order to determine whether the accused was sufficiently free from excitement and passion as to be culpable of premeditation. So I think on the strength of that, they might feel as if it would be easier to articulate a second degree murder case, which is still going to hit them with some pretty heavy, sentences if they're convicted. So it's really dealing with, as the brothers were saying earlier, it's just really dealing with the state of mind that individual was in going into that encounter.
Gotcha. So I wanted to ask another question. Then was Derek Chauvin charged with first degree murder? Was he not saying it was justified, but I'm saying was he charged with first degree murder? Or was it second degree?
I think it was second degree. I think people were arguing. I recall people having a similar debate. Saying that he should have known that this guy was going to die, and they expected him to get charged with a higher degree of murder. But I'm not going to say that 100%.
I think it was second.
Okay. Yeah, I know they were trying to get more first degree because they were saying with the knee on the neck, and he didn't get off and all that kind of stuff. So I was just wondering, was that the case?
Right. I think it's important for viewers to know too.
Sure. Yes.
Perception that a lot of viewers have is they think that the police are the ones who decide to charge someone with a crime. That's not the case. That's a whole different arena you're talking about from police. Police will arrest you for a crime, but the district attorney's office or whatever is called in your particular state, they're the ones who decide whether or not you actually get charged with a crime.
Right.
Okay. I think that's an important distinction because a lot of plain everyday layman citizens don't understand that concept.
Absolutely. What else? I know we were talking about a few other things, and I'm just trying to make sure we were kind of like responding and answering some of the viewers' questions as well too. Because
I want to make
go
a
ahead.
point. When we have a lot of these discussions, I find that people usually think it has to be one way or another. And let me pinpoint exactly what I'm talking about. A lot of folks seem to think that two things can't be true at the same time. It can be true. It can be true that Tyre should have complied.
Right.
While simultaneously, these officers shouldn't have beat this man like a dirty dog on the side of the street and killed him.
Right.
Two things can happen at the same time. Both were wrong. His actions, Tyre picking up and running and taking off, didn't justify him ending up dead or even being beat up, especially based on what we saw. So we have to have this. We need to be able to think in categories and understand that, this individual action was wrong, but it didn't justify this level of retaliation by the officers. Right. So we can have two things existing at the same time that were both wrong.
That's right.
And so we can have a more well-rounded discussion.
Right.
And be able to think clearly and more so think biblically for those of us who are Christ followers on here.
That's right. Good point. So what were y'all's thoughts about the chief of police and her statement regarding the incident? I can go ahead and play it back in case you all want to hear it again. Matter of fact, let's just do that. Let me just play the clip back. Let's play the clip.
This is not just a professional failing. This is a failing of basic humanity toward another individual. This incident was heinous, reckless, and inhumane. And in the vein of transparency, when the video is released in the coming days, you will see this for yourselves. I expect you to feel what the Nichols family feels. I expect you to feel outrage in the disregard of basic human rights, as our police officers have taken an oath to do the opposite of what transpired on the video.
So, what were your thoughts about what she said? Now, I'll say it before I respond. Brandon Tatum basically leaned in on her regarding her commentary. I don't believe it's just me, because again, I'm not a police officer. I didn't see anything wrong in what she said. Of course, due process has not been performed, but the gist of what she said is that's not how her officers were to be trained. And I think that it also begs the question: none of these officers that are charged in the death of Tyre Nichols have over 10 years of law enforcement. I think all of them was under 10. I think like maybe 5 to 6 years.
Yeah, maybe 7 at the most.
Yeah.
7. Yeah. Yeah. 2 years. 2 years.
Yes.
On the
Yes. Yeah. So I want what's your thoughts about what the chief police said?
Well, initially, I understood where Brandon Tatum was coming from, because no one had seen the video yet. And you could think that, well, if the chief is coming out saying that her officers are guilty, you are forcing a opinion amongst the public that, yeah, they're guilty. Chief said it was guilty before anything had happened. But the more I've sat on that and thought about that, she was the one who fired him. Okay, right? So she can say why she fired him. You know what I'm saying? That's what she's doing in her opinion. She had already fired him, okay? And she was really just coming on and saying, this is what I saw, and this is to justify why I fired him. You know what I'm saying? So I after further thought, I don't have a problem with what she came out and said.
Yeah,
you know?
and I would also add, she saw the video. She's the one that saw the video as well, too. Right. You know, so, I mean, I can say, here's a side note. And y'all can still answer the other question I just raised. What are your thoughts about Brandon Tatum as well? I mean, what is your honest thoughts and assessment of Brandon Tatum? I mean, let's just keep it real, honest. I want to know, curious, whether you like or not. I'm just asking, when it comes to his expertise, quote unquote, or his observation and insight, whatever. I mean, I just want to know, do y'all, how do you take his commentary when it comes to these issues?
Well, for me,
I
as far when it comes to police tactics and procedures and why officers would do some of the things they do, from what I've seen on his videos, I don't have a problem with anything he says. I'm usually in agreements when it comes to those particular issues. When you talk about politics and personal opinions on how things are supposed to be and not supposed to be outside of policing, well, that's his prerogative. Everybody got their own prerogative with that. You know, I can't say I'm waving a Brandon Tatum flag on everything. okay.
Yeah.
But when it comes to police stuff, police issues, when it comes to how police do the things they do, 90% of the time I'm in agreement. Matter of fact, I can't think of any police incident that he has talked about on his show where he's explaining what happened step by step. I can't say I've disagreed with any of that he said.
What about you, Eric? Oh, go ahead, Corey. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's very good.
I'm same way, Mike. I pretty much agree with him on when it comes to police and police tactics and some of the things he says. Politics, I agree some of what he says, not everything. But let me say this about police. Why did I become a cop?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say ever since I was a young boy, 12, 13 years old, I always knew I wanted to do something in law enforcement. At one point, I remember I wanted to be an FBI agent. I wanted to be a Secret Service agent. You know, I wanted to be a city cop back home where Mike and I are from. So I always wanted to be in law enforcement. I just didn't, at that young age, still could figure out how to do it, I guess. I ended up in the military, but that was always inside of me.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things we had to do in the academy, one of the classes we had to take was public speaking. And we all had to give a 3-minute speech. And something told me to wait. And I had one of the largest classes in history in the state of Virginia for our academy class. We had almost 100 people in our class. And I kind of waited to the very end to give my speech.
Mm-hmm.
And I did my speech on being humble, what it means to be humble. And I say that, you know, to do this job, you need to be humble, because once you break that, then you end up like these cops here. Mm-hmm. And I also believe, just like in ministry, I also believe, you know, it can still be different, because look how Mike ended up. He didn't want to be a cop, right? But I think it's still something within us that puts us in that path to being law enforcement. And I always stuck to being humble, having that humbling spirit, and treating people in with the proper respect, because I'm going to want that same respect back. Mm-hmm. And I guess you could say it was always my grandmother saying, you know, be nice. She always used to say, be nice, treat other people with respect. Every time we would get ready to leave, see you later, grandma, whatever, be nice and be respectful.
Right.
And that just always stuck with me. And I think that you have to learn to have a humbling spirit to do this job, because it's going to send you on an emotional roller coaster. But at the same time, you still got to be humble. Somebody on that scene there should have been able to digress really quick and get that situation under control, so it never had to escalate in that manner.
I didn't mean to cut you off. Finish your thought, Corey. I mean, finish your thought. I mean, and I'll get to this comment in a minute. Go ahead, finish your thought, please.
No, go ahead. You're fine. Go ahead.
Okay, so I wanted to respond to this commentary activism, and I'll populate the comment. He says, "What are you talking about? Saying Tyre was wrong? What type of effing traffic stop was effing that? An officer held one of his hands down while the others yelled. He puts both hands behind him." So let me just go ahead and respond, and then you gentlemen can respond to him if you like. First of all, he was wrong for resisting and not complying. That's what he was wrong for. He was wrong for not obeying lawful commands. That's what he was wrong for. Let me ask you this question, commentary. Are you a parent? Let me just ask you this question. Just are you a father? First of all, you sound like you may be a man. I hope you are, not talking like this and being a lady. But Suffice it to say, I'm going to assume that you're a dude. So let answer this one question for me, okay? I'm gonna give you a little bit of time. Are you a father? Are you a father? That's what I want to know. Are you a father? Oh, you say, Eric, you put him out. Y'all, she said she put him out. Okay, because let me just go ahead and say this then. If you are a father and your child refuses to submit to your authority, or your child refuses to do what you tell him or her to do, particularly just say your son. We all men here. What would you do, Eric, Corey, Mike, if your son tried to buck up to you? Do we need to go to a commercial break? Do we need to go to the prayer room real quick? I'm just asking. Let's go. Come on.
I'm old school.
Let's go. Let's have it.
My son gonna get put up against the wall.
See, all of us chiming in now, right? You see my point? Go ahead, Eric. Go ahead.
Man in the house, my son is not gonna overbear me on anything and try to intimidate me and pump his chest up to me. That ain't gonna happen in my house. You can't allow that. As a man, you can't allow that to happen. What are you teaching your son if you allow that to happen? You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So, no, there's going to be consequences. You're going to get disciplined for it. Okay. And see, that's the problem that I have. I understand him losing his life is not justified. That's never justified. Okay,
right.
When it's done excessively, when it's done unnecessarily, when it's done for no reason, no good cause, or nothing like that, of course, a suspect losing his or her life is bad. All bad is never justified when it's done that way.
All
we're saying is
that's
the beginning part of that. That doesn't change the fact that he wasn't wrong for running.
Right.
In other words, I can't say because he lost his life, well, it's justified in the beginning that he ran. We can't say that that's justified. You see what I'm saying? Because it's quite possible that had he not ran, none of this would have happened.
Right.
Okay. But I'm not putting the importance of him losing his life over that. I'm just saying one does correlate with the other in some way.
That's
and
right.
Both are wrong. You have to take responsibility for both sides. Back to one of those comments one of your viewers made, Seiko, about compliance with what would have happened if he it was something about compliance, about if he would have gotten hurt if he would have complied. We will always preach comply with the police. One of the things I say, no matter what kind of officer, you can come across the most racist, aggressive, most unprofessional officer in the world. We will always tell you to comply on the street. On the street, this is an authority figure, whether you like it or not.
Right.
That's telling you what they need you to do. I was an officer. I'm telling you what would be in my head if you don't comply with what I'm saying. If you don't comply with what I'm saying, all kinds of red flags start to go up in my head about other things that may be possible that I have to do to you. Okay, so and I consider myself a reasonable officer. We all do on this panel. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You always want to comply from the very beginning. And like I said, you don't fight on the street. You argue in court. Okay. So no matter what kind of officer you come across, you always want to comply. Okay. You are almost guaranteeing something wrong will happen if you don't comply. No matter what kind of officer you come across. You can come across the most dangerous officer. Okay? If you don't comply, oh yeah, you certainly are going to change the dynamic of that contact. Okay?
So,
and it's not going to be for the good, it's going to be for the bad.
So I put this comment up. They've said that's not your child, and right. So that's not a fair question. It is a fair question. It's a fair question because it starts in the home, ma'am or sir. This stuff starts in the home or the lack thereof. If what we're seeing when we see a defiance of authority outside of the home is because somewhere, some shape, form, or fashion, there's been a defiance of authority somewhere inside the home. Either that father is not there, or that mother is there, or she's not allowing that father to raise those kids, especially those boys, to respect authority. But ultimately, even if you did, there's a lack of the fear of God. Because when you have a fear of God, there's some things you're just not going to want to do. And that is to defy authority when somebody has a gun and a badge. Because at the end of the day, you're going to get in that car, or you're going to get out of that car. Either willingly or unwillingly, you're not going to get away with this. I mean, and my point is why would you even want to try? Why would you even want to try? Why would you even want to go? Because last time I checked, every police officer that I talked to, especially these three gentlemen right here, your goal is to go home. Your goal is not to be. Your goal ain't to try to shoot nobody. Your goal has never been, okay, let me see how many people I can pop today.
That's crazy. I ain't trying to fight you. But if I need
let me say this.
You gotta come out of that car. I mean, you can't say no, I ain't. Okay, well now you put me in a position as an officer. Well, hell, you refuse to come out of the car. That means at some point I gotta put my hands on you. I ain't trying to put my hands on you. Okay, I just want you to come out the car. You know what I'm saying? So I can continue with what I'm doing. You gotta break it down step by step. And you always need to comply. I will never change. There is absolutely no reason for you not to comply with law enforcement. Period. When you are in contact with law enforcement and it's a traffic stop or whatever kind of contact it is, if they're giving you orders, it's not for you to decide whether they're lawful orders or not. You decide that when you get to court. Okay? But on the street, you must do what they tell you to do, because you don't want to open the door for some dumb officer to do something really stupid.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You don't want to open that door.
So this my son came home Friday and from work, and he's only 19. It's like, Dad, he said, I watched that video. I said, what are you talking about? He said, oh, so you watched it in Memphis? He's like, yeah, I watched it. I said, okay, what did you think? He said, man, that was bad. I said, yeah. I said, now you see why I always tell you and your friends, you don't run. Whatever they say, get down, put your hand behind, you do it. I said, we will fight in court. We will not fight on the side of the road. I said, that's what you do. He said, man, I don't know why he didn't. I said, I don't know why he didn't either. I said, but that's what I tell my kids, don't run.
Right.
Because what is that, like Mike just said, what does that do to the officer? That automatically raises red flags and escalates the situation when it doesn't have to be. Cindy Thomas, can I address?
Absolutely. I want all three of you. I want all three of you to address, please. That's all. That's something. I purposely left it up there for y'all to respond.
She says this panel is disgusting. Okay. When was this man supposed to comply? They were going to murder him when they approached his car.
Wow.
You are all the problem.
Wow. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the fourth member of the Trinity. The fourth member of the Trinity, Miss Cindy Thomas. Let's give her a hand. Fourth member of the Trinity, Strong J.
I apologize. I don't see the comments. I don't have it set up to where.
She said this panel is disgusting. When was this man supposed to comply? I don't know. When they told him to get out the car. They were going to murder him when they approached his car. You are all the problem. As I say, this panel is disgusting. So, Cindy, thank you. I didn't know that the fourth member of the Trinity was here, but welcome.
Yeah, obviously, she's been Cleo from back in the day.
Yes, must be.
But
I think she formed. Oh, go ahead, Eric.
Oh, okay, yeah. I don't know how long. Is it Cindy? I don't know how long.
Cindy Thomas. Cindy Thomas. That's her name.
I don't know if she's listened to this entire discussion or not. Maybe she just chimed in. So I'm going to give her a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. But this goes back to what I was talking about, Seiko, earlier, is that we need to be able to think a little more diversity.
Right.
Not just assume that it's one or the other. Two things could be true simultaneously. Had he done, we can't, I'm not going to say, and we said this, every one of us made the same comment. We can't say with 100% certainty that if that man complied, that he would still be alive.
Right.
But what we're speaking on is the history.
That's right.
And between the three of us, with all the decades of experience we have, probably the thousands of police videos we've seen where police use of force have occurred, with making our own content, the training we went through as police officers. We're speaking from that perspective. We're not just talking because CNN decides to show us 10 videos of black men being stomped and killed each year. We're talking about reading books, studying these topics, our own training that we've been through, the calls we've been on, the stops we've been on. That's where we're coming from.
Talk, bro.
So I'm not going to act like we're holier than thou, but we have decided that we're going. I have almost 200 videos. I'm not sure how many Corey and Mike have, but I know they got a lot of videos on their content on their channel. So you're talking about a lot of time studying these topics, talking about them, reading articles. So we're coming from the perspective that in the vast majority of cases that we've seen, and studied, if you comply with the law enforcement, the police officers' orders, things typically de-escalate. Does it happen 100% of the time? Absolutely not. But in the vast majority of the time, lives are saved when people do what the police officers tell them to do. So that's the perspective. That's where we come from. We're talking, we try to come with fact-based arguments, not emotionally driven. And I get it.
Right.
Mike talked about it earlier. We get the emotion tied to this. People are justifiably angry because this man shouldn't have lost his life. We're all pissed off up here. So if you want to sit up here and throw stones at the panel talking about how disgusting we are, first make sure you know who you're dealing with, know what our perspective is, but we're not just looking at it from one area and just saying that's bad. We're also saying, well, what can we do? We're trying to offer remedies and solutions to these issues. What can be done in the future if your kids, if Cindy has any kids or cousins or whoever, young people in her life, or if she's a young person, if you listen to what we're telling you, the odds increase dramatically that you'll be able to walk away from these incidents with your health and with your life intact. And none of us can say with 100% certainty what those cops would have done. We just know that in the majority of cases, the things that we're talking about are legitimate and they save lives.
Absolutely.
And I think Cindy's opinion is coming from, like Eric was saying, that's an emotional response to the fact that this guy lost his life. So she's only focusing on that, and she's not trying to look at the perspective of you got two wrongs here. You just want to focus on one wrong and don't want to focus on the other wrong. You see what I'm saying? Both things can happen, like Eric was saying. And I think her viewpoint is quite common, unfortunately, around the average citizen who has no law enforcement experience or anything like that. But that's how we're trying to tell you from a law enforcement perspective what you should and shouldn't do. Again, if you comply, no matter what kind of officer you come along with, you greatly increase your chances of moving on. You see what I'm saying? We're never going to change that, and it's true whether you want to look at it that way or not. And when we say calm, that's really directed to law-abiding, regular, everyday citizens like Cindy must be. You see what I'm saying? We want to show you this is what you got to do so that something like this doesn't happen. We know criminals ain't gonna follow that. Okay.
Can we answer that question right here from Will Gill? He approached aggressively. He had his hands up and was already terrified. Those officers were already wrong. No probable cause for the stop. So my question is, how do you know this?
Right.
How do you know that there's no probable cause? Because I didn't watch. I don't know all the details, but since you said this, Will, how do you know that these officers stopped this man without any probable cause? How do you know that for sure? What court transcript did you just read? What information do you have? I mean, what TMZ information you have from the courtroom that has not been chosen yet to make that assessment and to make that conclusion? That's what I want to know.
The chief said, if I'm not mistaken, that there may not have been any evidence for it, but do we know? Obviously, everything that these officers said is going to be thrown into question, and rightfully so. No doubt about it. I said that earlier on in the broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
But the chief said that there appears to be no evidence for it. So maybe there's no body camera footage. Maybe there's no video of it. But could that initial stop been justified? It could have been, but it doesn't necessarily take into account. I'm not speaking of their actions afterwards, but we don't know. The chiefs just said that if I'm not mistaken, now I could be wrong, so I'm not saying 100%, but from what I recall, the chief said that didn't appear to be any evidence supporting that. But who knows?
Right. Who knows?
And something like that.
But how does that negate compliance? Even if they didn't have a right to stop them. Okay, I'm just saying that. So I'll put myself in that example. Let's put myself in that perspective. So police officers pull me over, surround my car. Driver, put your left hand out the door. Put your right hand outside the door. Let me see your hands. I'm gonna show you my hands. I'm gonna show you my hands, my feet, my toes. I'm gonna show you the toenail, toe jam. I'm gonna show you all of it. Why? Because I want to go home.
Thank you.
I'm just saying. Listen, because I've been stopped before. Matter of fact, I've been stopped by beating a case from a cop that had gave me a ticket. He got mad that I beat his cop friend in a traffic case. I won the case. I'm getting ready to leave. I get detained. The man said, "You look familiar." Okay, have you ever been on the south side of Houston before? I said, "No, I have not been. I haven't." But the man told me to stand right there. Give me your ID. Let me see your ID. I gave him my ID. I did file a complaint later on, and the I guess the chief or whatever told me basically behind closed doors that you look like the guy that killed his brother in a traffic stop. And so he said, I'm sorry about that, but that's probably one of the reasons why. But my point is, why would I get into a spit fight with this cop about something that really has nothing to do with anything? Okay, it's fine. You take my ID. You want to run a check on me. You stop me. You pull me over. I got pulled over late at night going through Midland, Texas, in West Texas, in the middle of the night. I had to tell my friend, dude, shut up, because he don't like cops. I'm like, yo, you gonna like cops tonight, Negro? You gonna shut up, and we're gonna go home. Period. You see what I'm saying? So my point is, do what we're told. And yes, you're going to have dirty cops. You know what? In every society, in every institution, you're going to have wicked people, because we live in a wicked world and we got wicked hearts. Okay? So you got parents that abuse their kids. You got kids that disrespect their parents. You got any realm of authority, you're going to have somebody abusing it. So the law enforcement is no exemption. We're not making excuses for it. We're just trying to explain, and that's why I got these three brothers on the call on this live, to help us understand that, listen, as tragic as that was, there's cause and effect. There's sowing and reaping, ladies and gentlemen. We can't ignore that. And both parties are responsible. Unfortunately, only one is able now to tell, or this group of people are able to tell this side of the story, but one person is not. And it's unfortunate. But it's possible it could have been avoided. It's possible. The fact that he ran and took off changed the game. It changed the game, but it does not justify what those cops did. We never said that. Nobody's ever saying that.
I agree.
Right. That's why you don't want to run.
Period.
That's the whole reason why it came with the acronym of CALM: comply, answer questions, listen, and move on. Because, like I said, when I used to conduct traffic stops, like, man, why did it have to be like that? Why was their attitude that type of way? And it was also, what did I expect from the citizen?
Right.
Like, I know you expected me to be a certain way because I'm law enforcement. I had that position of authority. So you expect me to act a certain way. Well, you know what? I expect the citizen to act a certain way. If I ask questions, answer. I mean, not to incriminate yourself. I get all that. All right. But basically, hey, I pull up to you for, let's do speeding. Hey, sir, I need to see your driver's license registration. At that point, I don't need any lip. Why are you, cursing at me, saying this? I ain't do that. You got the wrong person, blah, 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 blah. All right, so I still need your ID. I'll be more than happy to explain to you why I did this, blah, blah, blah. I expect a certain response from the citizen, as well as that I'm gonna come at you the right way. You start coming out sideways, and then you're gonna cause that officer to come sideways.
Right.
Just like you said, the equal reactions. Right. That's why you don't run. Right. And I will always tell my kids, don't you run.
Exactly.
If you're wrong, you're wrong. What were you saying in the Navy, Seiko?
Man,
if you're wrong, stay wrong.
Stay wrong. That's it.
Yep. You're wrong, stay wrong. You're wrong, stay wrong. We'll deal with the consequences.
Right.
We'll deal with it. I'd rather have you deal with it. All right. So what? You get locked up or whatever. At least I can still go see you and possibly get to touch you, and you're there for a little while, and I have to go see you in the ground somewhere.
Right.
But there's also attitude, I think, where people think one of the common things I see with people who are pulled over is they say, well, you didn't have no reason to pull me over. Or they think that the reason you pulled them over is not good enough for you to pull them over. You see what I'm saying? Like, I understand your tail light might be out, or your license plate light might be out, or something like that. I understand that, but that's not a good enough reason to pull me over. Okay, well, you got pulled over. It's up to you now to comply and do what I'm asking you to do. You see what I'm saying? I think another thing that people are really uncomfortable with is they don't understand that in general, when police officers make traffic stops, they're not looking at just the reason that they stopped you. If I stopped you for a brake light out, I'm not putting tunnel vision and blinders on to anything else I might notice or find that's illegal in that particular stop. I'm also looking at other things. Maybe I stopped you for a vehicle code violation because you happen to be in an area at a time where we maybe have a lot of burglaries or something happening. So now I want to stop you, and I might ask you some questions. Where you coming from? Why are you in this area at this time? Because we get A, B, C, and D that occur here. That's why I'm asking you these questions. You understand? So every traffic stop is almost kind of like a mini investigation, because that's what officers are supposed to do. What are they supposed to do? Find crime. Not just respond to crime. They're supposed to find crime and prevent crime from happening in the first place. I think the average citizen doesn't understand all those three aspects of a contact, like a traffic stop. Okay.
Can I interject one? I want to interject one point though, Mike.
Sure.
Because some people are asking the question, like this sister here, but there seems to be. I don't know everybody's heart. I only know my heart. But when I've been stopped by the police, I'm not in fear for my life. And I have been stopped by police. And some of the times I've been stopped is because I did something wrong. I'm just being honest. Some of the times I've been stopped, I've done something wrong. Other times I haven't done anything wrong, or maybe it was something that they may have saw. Like matter of fact, here in Texas, because I live in Texas, you can't have borders around your license plate. But why do car dealerships put borders on your license plate? But they do. So anyway, I get stopped by a state trooper. And the state trooper say, there's a law, that's enforced that, you can't have, license plate borders on your car. You have to take those off. I said, trooper, I did not know that. Thank you, for letting me know. I didn't know that. I'll take it off. I mean, no big deal. Have y'all remember the skit Chris Tucker did?
Yeah, I know exactly what he's talking about.
Chris Tucker or Chris Rock?
Chris Rock, thank you. Chris Rock, thank you. Yeah. Chris Rock. Y'all remember that skit?
Oh, that's classic.
Ain't it classic? Now that's by the way, Chris Rock ain't saved, to my knowledge.
Nah.
And he putting everybody on game. Now I'm not sure if he can hold to that view now, but that's a classic skit. But why we don't do that? Why we make excuses for rebellion on our part? But we want to hang everybody else high on the gallows for the rebellion on their part. No, both are wrong. Both can be wrong at the same time, like we said. So Nubia said that we are assuming Tyre would be alive if he would have complied. Well, it's a strong possibility, man. It's a strong. It's a very high. It's a very. And he got dragged. Let's just from what we saw in the video, he got dragged out the car for refusing to get out the car. Hello, that's why. If you're telling, because y'all three are officers, if you tell somebody to please step out the car and they said, "I'm not getting out the car,"
yeah, I'm gonna have to make you get out the car.
But I don't want to get out the car. I don't want to get out the car. I'm not getting out the car.
Now, depending on what's going on and what kind of contact it is, I might make a decision to see whether or not it's worth me going that extra step to get you out of the car. But at the same time, the way I see it, if I'm asking you to get out the car, I really need you to get out the car. So it's going to be worth me forcing you out of the car. Do I want to force you out of the car? No. Absolutely not want to put my hands on you in any form of fashion unless I'm getting ready to arrest you. Okay, then I got no choice. But you must get out in California. If you get pulled over by the police and they direct you to get out of the car, you must exit that car. Okay, there is no ifs, ands, and buts about that. If you're ordered to get out of the car, you must get out of the car. Okay? There could be many reasons why I need you to get out of the car. Maybe I'm going to talk to you about something that I don't want your passengers to hear because I don't want them to influence your answers. Okay? Mm-hmm. Maybe I smell something illegal in your car, although today marijuana is legal, so you won't have that so much. But when marijuana is illegal, the smell of marijuana coming from your car alone, I could search your car. Okay, right. So I might pull you out of the car because I smell marijuana or I smell alcohol. Okay, it smells like somebody's been drinking an alcoholic beverage in here, and you got a driver and you got 3 passengers. So I might pull you out of the car to see if it's you that's driving under the influence of alcohol. Right. So there's a lot of reasons of why someone would get you out of the car. But in California, if an officer orders you out of the car, you must get out of the car. You cannot refuse to get out of the car. When you do that, you are now changing the dynamic of that contact. This is going to turn out, there's going to be escalated. It's going to turn out way worse than it probably would if you just got out of the car.
Right. And that's again, nobody's justifying nobody's justifying the behavior of the officers, what they said or what they did to Tyre. No, are anybody here on this, any of you gentlemen justifying anything that those officers did to Tyre? No. Okay. No. All right. Okay, so we can move on.
I'm thinking a lot of people are missing that point. When we're making general comments about the vast majority of police interactions and what the average, what's best for the average citizen, somehow along the lines, as it leaves our mouths, it travels through these airways, the radio, their speakers and microphones. Right. Somehow, some people take that, and when it goes into their ear, that we're saying that the officers were justified in what they're doing. And that is not even close to what any of us are saying. We're taking this conversation and we're trying to say, okay, we're trying to give y'all information to help save lives. Somebody commented earlier here, if they dragged you, Seiko, if they dragged you out of the car, you probably wouldn't have been fired. It might have been, I might be combining 2 comments because another person said, they probably said, I doubt you would have complied. And then another person said something along the lines of, if officers kidnap me, I'm fighting for my life. This is our argument. Okay. The allegation of kidnapping, if I'm not mistaken, didn't take place until after, I would assume until after he ran and the way they're holding him and beating him up. That would be my assumption. So you're talking about, this is what we're saying. If an aggressive cop stops me, retired, 20 plus years in law enforcement, stops me on the streets and says, get out of the car. The first question,
get out of the effing car. Get out of the effing. Get your black A out of the effing car. Just all of that.
Yeah, I might be like, what did I do? And then he'd be like, get out of the car. Okay, all right. Like, I'm getting out. I'm complying. I'm doing what he says. If he roughs me up, slams me on the ground even. Slams me on the ground, starts yelling at me, I'm going to be asking questions like, what did I do? What's going on? But I ain't going to be fighting that dude. Why? Because if let's say it's the same Scorpion unit or a similar team like that here in Las Vegas, if they have their plans together, they probably could easily articulate, or maybe not easily, but they probably could try to articulate why I was the one who was the aggressor.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not giving any more fuel to that potential fire. I'm going to do what they asked me to do. I'll be pissed, but I'll be sitting up here, okay, all right, I know what I got to do. I know I'm not fighting this dude on this street corner. I'm going to get all my facts together. I'm going to document this stop. I'm going to get my information together. So when it's all said and done, I'm fighting this thing. I'm going to internal affairs. I'm going to whoever I need to go to. I'm going to the local news department. I'm going to state my case. I'm going to tell them who I am. And then I'm going to make sure that I'm going to do my best to have those dudes jobs, period.
Right.
And get them locked up if they violated my rights. If I'm talking about me being innocent,
right.
And I'm talking about an unlawful stop. Me turning around because what they're doing is unlawful and saying I'm going to start throwing punches and running, that's just being ignorant. I'm not saying that's what he did. I'm just making it a scenario. I'm basing that off of the comment that was in the chat.
Right.
I'm not going to give them more ammunition to justify beating me. Especially if I see that they may have that intent in the first place.
Right.
I keep saying this over and over again, y'all. The information that we're trying to share with y'all, in most cases, the vast majority can potentially save your life. I'm not sitting up here to argue for every police incident, but the majority of them, these can save lives.
I'm curious. I'm curious about this Will Gill. Will, are you a police officer? You said I see four people. I see four people who don't know what they're speaking on. So I'm not a police officer, but I know based on my interactions with police officers and my interaction with these brothers right here, I know enough to know I wouldn't be doing what Tyre did and other people who've done stuff and it ended out terrible. So I'm asking you, Will. I'm asking you, are you a police officer? Have you ever had any experience? And I'm talking about tenured experience within law enforcement. If you have, I will invite you to come up right now so you can school these three gentlemen on what they should be speaking on, because apparently you have an inside track on what it means to be a police officer. This is why I brought these men on. But I want to know. I want to know, what is it that we, or I'm gonna say them because I'm not a cop. You say I see four people who don't know what they're speaking on. Okay, so I'm give you the opportunity. First of all, answer this question. Answer this question. Are you or have you ever been in law enforcement? I'm not talking about being a cadet. I'm talking about you are show enough cop. Show enough cop.
Oh, and Nurse
Marsha, Nurse Marsha, yes, I do have a bachelor's degree. Thank you.
And you know what? Since when is the look at all these clowns we see our kids right now in school. Teaching our kids gender ideology and saying that you can have multiple, you can have hundreds of genders and all this kind of nonsense. So since when does having a college degree mean that you have common sense?
Right.
Please spare me with that.
And most of police work, patrol officers on the street, common sense is the first thing you need above anything. I don't have a college degree, okay? And I did that job for 25 years, all right? And I did it very successfully for 25 years, okay? So having a college degree doesn't trump common sense. You got to have common sense first. You got to have real life experience doing the job of a police officer. You know why? Because you're dealing with real life people of all walks, ages, and all walks of life. Okay? Right. Life experience and common sense is the most important things that you got to have in doing a police officer. Not an associate's degree in engineering. That ain't gonna help you. That ain't gonna help you. Okay?
Mike, all right. Mike, let me throw this in. Let me throw this in there with you, Mike. Common sense, compassion, and the willingness to go into the fire.
Yes.
The willingness to go into the fire, which most people aren't willing to do. To go run towards the gunfire. What good is a college degree going to do when bullets are flying in your direction and you got to take out the potential threat?
You open it up doors. You open it up. Eric, You are absolutely right. I mean, you start. Look,
Surprise.
Seiko, one of your guests asked, I think it was, I can't remember who their name was, but it's to the point of have we ever been on a scene where a scene was kind of chaotic, maybe not to this extreme here. What we do? Well, one time we did have that. We had this one trooper that was kind of a hothead, and we could tell it was gonna go south. And I simply said, "Hey," went up to him, "Hey, I got it. Sergeant need to talk to you on the phone." Sergeant didn't need to talk to him. I intervened and stopped what could have been potentially a freaking nightmare, and we're all running. It happens.
Everybody.
See, the thing is, you're not going to see these things on CNN or MSNBC or Fox. You're not going to see these officers who are out here doing the right thing. You're not going to see that. They just always show you the worst of the worst. And to get you upset and to think that, because listening and reading some of your comments, a lot of your guests have been pulled over by cops, and guess what? You're all still here. So what are we saying?
Right.
Here. You still here. Some of you have beat your tickets, but you're still here. That's what we're saying. Reasonable is the key word. You did what you had to do. Why? Because you didn't want to end up
living witnesses. They're living witnesses that it works when you comply. And probably 90 to 95% of the cases, it works when you just comply. It works. Will, since you don't know, I mean, since you're not a cop, saying that your cousin is a sheriff, what does that supposed to mean? What does that mean? What does that mean?
You know what? I would ask him this. Have you ever been on ride-alongs with your cousin who's a cop? I'm assuming does your cousin work patrol? What area does he work in law enforcement? And if so, if it's patrol specifically, okay. Have you ever been on something called a ride-along with him to really get to know what it is he does on the street, why he does it on the street, and what's in his head? I would encourage you to do that. And if you don't do that, I would encourage you to go on a ride-along with your local police department and see what they do on the street. See what kind of stops they make and why they stop people, okay? Get to know your police department. I know it almost sounds like some of these viewers wanted us to come on here and just bash the police across the board. You know what I'm saying? Which in this situation, in this Memphis situation, I think we've done that. Okay, we've clearly made you understand that we as prior officers don't support or agree with what these officers did in Memphis. That goes without saying. I think we beat that horse until it's dead.
Right.
Yeah.
And being a firefighter don't make you a cop, dude. This is not Chicago Fire, bro. We talking about police officers here. Okay, so you made the comment. So now I got to dig into you a little bit. You made the comment. You made the stupid and asinine and foolish comment and prejudged individuals that you know nothing about. So you know what the Bible says about people like you? Will, you're a fool. You are a non-GMO organic fool. Proverbs 18:13. He who gives an answer before he hears is a fool, is a folly and a shame to him. I would rather you have just asked a question than to have assumed that you knew anything that we were talking about. So you need to apologize because you're not looking good right now. To say that your cousin is a cop, I don't care about your cousin being Roscoe P. Coltrane. I don't care nothing about that. That'll make you anything to me. I asked you a simple question. Are you a cop? Because you said that we don't know what we're talking about. I see 4 people here that don't know what they're talking about. Don't know what they're speaking about. No, the person who don't know what they're speaking about is you. I'm facilitating a panel discussion with experienced police officers who have done their time, who have served their community and even their nations in some shape, some form of fashion and degree. And for you to come here on this live and think you're going to try to clown and sun anybody, bruh, I'm not that one. And some of you moderators better tell them. Y'all better put them in timeout before you go sit in the corner and start crying. I'm not that one. Don't let this Bible fool y'all. Please. You're going to respect this channel. You're going to respect this live over here. But let me proceed and let's wrap this thing up. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Hey, put up Proverbs 17:11 comment earlier. I don't trust bald cops that wear glasses. I'm
let me.
you Proverbs 17:11.
You from New York too. Oh man,
That was
yo.
good. I'm thinking I know you because that was good. That was good. I appreciate that.
There you go. There it is. I don't trust bald cops that wear glasses and have great beard.
Man, you know
Man,
what? And just to take a little bit of different turn here, when you hear communities talking about police reform or anything along those lines as far as change, I am and have always been in support of improving anything. If you as a community can come up with a better way that police can do certain things, by all means, we should talk about that. You see what I'm
right,
saying? And police can tell you whether or not that's a good idea or a bad idea and why. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think any of us on this panel are not in support of improving. Are there better ways that police can do things? There may be, very well may be. Okay, given any given situation, there are a lot of things that departments are doing now that weren't doing before. There's some departments who don't pursue on certain things. There's some departments who don't even enforce. Like what? Not too long ago, they came up with something out here in California where there's no more jaywalking. You know what I'm saying? They cut that out. There's no more of that. Right or wrong, they cut it out. I'm all for improving something and making something better, and I'm always open to talking about how you can improve police activities. Police also talk about that stuff within their own circles. How can we do something better? Okay, so just because we support police, I will
right,
always support police. I will always support the blue line. Okay. I did that for 25 years. There are too many good cops out here doing good jobs and what they're supposed to do for me not to support that. Okay. Do I support the bad cops? Absolutely not. None of us do. Okay. Hiring processes, the type of people you hire into this job does matter. Of course it matters, okay? But nothing is foolproof. Somebody can go through being a police officer is one of the most what's the word? What I'm saying? Extenuating type of thing you could do to go through to finally become a police officer. You got a background investigation, you got an academy, you got a FTO period, you got a probationary period. By the time you finish with everything that needs to be done to finally be a police officer full-fledged, it takes a while and a lot to do. But you know what? People with terrible characters can slip through the cracks sometimes.
right,
Now, can we make that better? I don't know. Let's talk about it. Let's
right.
see if that's something that we can change. You know what I'm saying? But we're all about improving something that needs to be improved.
Right.
And got no problem with that. Just because we support police, you know what I'm saying? Of course we support police. You know what I'm saying? There's too many of them doing good jobs, good things out there. Police will always have to use force on somebody. Police will always have to yank somebody out of the car. Police will always have to do special enforcement in different high crime areas or wherever they are. Those jobs ain't going nowhere. We will always have to do those things. So if you're not comfortable with police putting their hands on you now, you certainly going to be comfortable in the future, because that's always going to be a situation where that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that, and that's unfortunate, because cops still got to go out there and do their jobs.
Right.
In spite of the bad that you've seen in the media, cops still got to go out on the street and patrol those streets. We still got to go out and deal with those high crime areas, or any areas. Maybe your area ain't high crime. The low crime areas are the ones that you got to worry about, because those are the ones that you're going to do a traffic stop and get your head blown off.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because you relax your tactics and stuff like that.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So, police still got to do the job. So I'm going to support them.
Let me throw this in there real quick.
Go ahead, please. Yeah, go ahead. Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
There seems to be some people in the chat who assume that having an education means that you're a better individual, like you're a better person. Mm-hmm. So let's take that to its logical conclusion. So that would assume that doctors, lawyers, scientists, right, there should be, based on the higher level of education, there should be no problems there. But why is it if so? And we know that that's not true. Every year there's estimates 50,000 to 250,000 people die from medical malpractice every year.
Right.
That's a much higher rate. And again, let me make this clear in case people just jumped into the chat. This has nothing to do with the evils that these officers did in Memphis. What they did was evil. I'm not talking about that. I'm responding to some comments in the chat where some people or an individual assumes that higher education must mean that you're a better person. So why is it that you have 250,000 people estimated dying from medical malpractice every year? Or why is it that you still have attorneys and judges and lawyers, doctors getting caught up in various degrees of corruption? It's because whoever's making these comments, obviously, it clearly doesn't have or if they do have a biblical perspective, it's malinformed, it's misinformed, because we understand that the heart of the individual is what forms their character. So I've known guys that finished high school, got into law enforcement later on, and they turned out to be some of the best cops. I know some cops that have master's degrees. I know cops that have doctorate degrees. They're on law enforcement. They're cops. They're out there on the beat, or they're in the detective bureaus. And some of them are terrified to do the tough stuff. That's why they have desk jobs. And God bless them. If you're afraid to make those hard contacts and do that tough aspect of the job, then it's best that you find another area to work in.
Right.
So let's understand the dynamics of a particular job, of a particular career field, before we start throwing out some type of standard that makes some people that assume someone is better qualified for a certain position based on the fact that they were able to go to college, that they forked out however many tens of thousands of dollars and to regurgitate some facts. Almost anybody can do that.
Right.
But how many people, like I said before, can stand there and make entry and be ready to kick in a door knowing that there's a guy on the other side who's got a gun? Not many. Not many people can do that. Does that make me better? Does that make me or any of these Michael Corey better? Absolutely not. It's just that we have a different mindset. Right. And believing that God truly made us for the positions that we ultimately ended up in. I don't knock anybody who doesn't want to be a cop. I never knocked anybody who didn't want to be a corrections officer. I'm like, if you don't want to do that job, don't do it, because it's not for everybody.
Right.
But I'm not going to sit up here and try to sit on my high horse and act like I'm a better person, because I understand that it takes a different character for different career to enter into different career fields. I just wanted to throw that out there.
That's a good point, though, bro. That's a good point. Any other closing thoughts? I mean, I know we can probably do another live on another day, because I know it's just so much. I mean, and let me just say this: I appreciate the interaction, and my apologies for getting kind of loud because my voice was too close to the mic. But but I have a hard time, or I take issue when I hear people try to attack, particularly my guests, when they don't know what they're talking about. You gentlemen have given expertise, and not just expertise, but you've shared your own life experiences, and then on top of that, you're trying to help other people to survive. I mean, that's a labor of love in itself. So when I hear people try to come at individuals and what they don't know what they're talking about, yeah, I just don't have that type of patience for that. That really takes me to a place where I got to check you. So I look at this also. One more thing I wanted to share, and it's the data. And I'm not sure if Eric, you may have this about police interactions throughout the year. I think about 250,000.
The number of police interactions with the public.
Yes, sir.
Annual basis,
please, could you please share that?
There's a report. No, let me. It's on the Dolan Consulting Group page.com. The DolanConsultingGroup.com. Anybody can pull this up, and it talks about. Let me go to the title of this PDF.
Sure.
Dispelling the myths surrounding police use of force and lethal force. It's a PDF, maybe.
What's the title again?
dispelling myths, MITH, dispelling myths surrounding police use of lethal force. And it compiles a ton of data. I think anybody who's interested in being, learning some of the data in comparison, that's where I got the information about how many.
Right.
This is one of the places where I got the information about how many medical malpractice deaths take place on an annual basis.
Right.
But this report compiles a couple of reports where they were able to basically decipher that on average, law enforcement officers makes somewhere in the neighborhood of 375 million. Hear me out. 375 million contacts with the public on an annual basis. I'm talking about vehicle stops, consensual stops, self-initiated stops where the officer just stops someone, citizen stops, calls for service, what have you. So we're looking at a tremendous amount of contacts that officers have with the public. And when you compare that to the amount of abuse of killings from the police, on average, since the since the Washington Post started compiling the data,
right,
as far as their use of force database, it averages out to about 1,000 people that the police kill on an annual basis. 80 to 90% of them being in possession of a weapon when the officer used deadly force on them. And again, this has nothing to do with Memphis, what we're talking about at this moment. Memphis, and I just want to make sure that people understand where we're coming from. Memphis, the actions of those officers were evil. And we all hope that these guys get prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Right.
Everyone
right.
is up here. But we're just making some general statements about law enforcement as a whole. Mike talked about, he mentioned, man, there are too many good officers out there on this beat, pushing a black and white or whatever type of vehicles that they're doing investigations, who are doing good. But the reality is, misery loves company, and good news doesn't sell. Let's be real about this. Good news doesn't sell. If CNN ain't going to report, or Fox News or MSNBC, ain't none of these agencies going to report about the good things that the good acts that happen on a regular basis, the mundane good actions. The fact that some cop found some stolen property from a 70-year-old couple or something along those lines, and brought it back to them. Those actions are just never heard of. All we hear is what sells, and those are the most sensational stories. So back to the point I'm making, and then I'll pass it on to the rest of the panel, is that 375 million contacts with the public, 1,000 killings by police against citizens, 80 to 90% of them where the suspect was in possession of a weapon. You're looking at a very small percentage of occurrences where cops use deadly force against the average everyday citizen. Very small percentage. As heinous as Memphis was, let's not act as if this is the routine. Right. And I'm hearing a lot of that. I mean, we've been hearing that pretty much since 2012, 2014. Trayvon Martin, even though it wasn't a police officer, but everything that's associated with that. Eric Garner. Let's not act as if those situations are the norm. They are not. I just really want to make that abundantly clear before. If I don't get any point across tonight, I want to make sure that that point is made very clear.
Amen. Corey, any closing thoughts or comments, brother?
I think we said enough, man. I know there's good cops out there. I know there's in our state, those that I served with, in every profession, like you said, Seiko, has bad apples, right? But we can't let that one bad apple or two bad apples represent the whole flock. One doctor gets sued for malpractice. He goes and amputates the wrong arm or leg. You still go to the doctor though, don't you?
Right.
Right. He'll lose his license or whatever, but you still go to the doctor.
Right.
And another thing, I always just tell people, hey, don't let somebody else's experience be your reality.
Come on.
Right.
Come on.
Just because that individual had a bad experience with the law enforcement doesn't mean you're gonna have one.
Right.
Right. Each officer is different. That's why I came up with the acronym CALM, comply, answer questions to move on, because I wanted the citizen to act a certain way too. So I knew how I was gonna come off. I wanted to go home. I didn't want to put hands on you because I had to call supervisor out. I'm gonna be investigated now. I don't want to have to write a letter, a use of force letter. I don't want to do none of that mess because that's it's a
People
headache.
don't even have a clue what y'all
really
deal with.
do
People
all
don't even
that.
have a clue what police officers have to deal with when y'all have those types of incidents and escalations that occur. They just think that, it's like a movie on TV. You just go home and no. I mean, and like I said, I've heard the stories. I heard the paperwork that y'all got to deal with and go through. So we have to educate the people that want to know the truth, and those who don't. Hey, listen, you still without excuse because you're here. And you can't say you weren't told because we did tell you. So, so any other closing thoughts, Mike, before we wrap up?
No, I think we covered everything. I just was, the information that we given, the instructions, the advice that we're giving you is targeting those average good citizens, law-abiding citizens who really don't know what to do. I definitely don't want those citizens to feel that they are in some kind of fear when they are pulled over or when they are being contacted by police or not know what to do. Criminals, they don't care about this stuff. People who want to fight, people who are trying to be shady, who are trying to hide some, who are committing crimes, they don't care about all this stuff, okay? They're going to do what they're going to do to either get away, to lie, cheat, and steal, and do what they need to do to get away from that police officer, okay? Unfortunately, a lot of those you ain't gonna get to them. We know that. We understand that. We'd be out of a job if you didn't have criminals. You're gonna always have criminals, okay?
Right.
But for my co-person that just a regular law-abiding citizen, you don't have to be afraid of the police. Don't let incidents like this make you feel like, man, I can comply and still get killed. No, if you comply, you got a 99% chance of going home and moving on. That's fact. That's fact.
Right.
Simple as that.
Exactly. So I want to let people know how they can reach out to you guys. I want to know about your channel. Brothers, let me go ahead and give y'all's website and YouTube information. Brothers-in-law, let them know how they can reach y'all, what y'all's broadcast days are. If you have a time where y'all go live, let people know how they can reach out to y'all and connect.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. Okay. Every Thursday we do a live. Every Thursday at what time is it, Corey? Every Thursday at 4 or 5 o'clock.
8 o'clock. 8 o'clock Eastern.
8 o'clock Eastern. Okay.
8 o'clock Eastern.
Every Thursday we do a live. We pick a video on YouTube and we just talk about it and answer your questions or anything. We appreciate you tuning in. Our tag is Brothers-in-Law, BROTHAS-in-law. Okay, just like that. So you can reach us on YouTube, Facebook Live. If you got any comments, questions, hit us up. Tune in to our live, and we love to hear your comments, ask your questions, or hear your views on any particular police contact. And if there's something we can help you with, we'll do that. Anything else, Corey, that I missed?
No, I think you're on spot, man. Like I said, every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Also, too, if you want to shoot us an email and carry on conversation, you can hit us up at brothersinlaw21@gmail.com. And I'll send Saiko the link so he can put it down in the description below.
Sure,
so
great.
thank you for having us, man. We really appreciate it.
No, brother, it was my pleasure. The pleasure was all mine. Brother Eric, let people know how they can reach out to you, your ministry, your YouTube channel, when you air, all that good stuff.
Yeah, they can reach me at Code Red Conversations on YouTube. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. You can also reach me at Eric L. Muldrow on Facebook. That YouTube and Facebook are where I'm most active. And once again, my conversations are expanding, are broadening to talk about subjects beyond simply law enforcement. I recently had a guest on speaking about social justice, kind of giving a social justice 101 I have my primary focus is to address issues, cultural issues, dealing with truth from a biblical perspective. So we'll be discussing apologetics, news, entertainment, various stories. So come on in, especially at this time where I'm making this transition. It's going to be a lot of fun. But once again, law enforcement is my bread and butter. I definitely will continue to address those issues. And in closing, I saw someone make a comment just reminding us that in the midst of our conversations and debates, let's always remember to pray for these families that are involved.
Right.
Pray that ultimately God will get the glory and that people will come to know him and through this incident, this tragic incident, that more people will choose to reject their sinful ways and run to the Savior.
Amen. Amen. I want to make one last comment. First and foremost, thank you, brothers, for coming on, and also thank you, those of you, the viewers, for watching and also participating in the comments and in the chat. A very lively discussion. But I want to just address this one individual here, Lynn NC. He said BCV always argues with those who don't agree with him. Can you give me an example, please, ma'am? If you make statements publicly, then it can be responded to publicly. I don't look for arguments. I respond to them accordingly. So I don't even know who you are. But when you make statements like this, I would just ask for you to bring examples. Because sometimes having robust debates and even arguments, the disciples argued. You read Acts 15, you can read that. They argued. Acts 13, they got it in. Paul and Silas, they got it in. And it's about the truth. So I would definitely stand for what is true. I would never apologize for standing up for what is right. You don't have to like my style, but the fact that you're here, you must like something about it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here unless you're a glutton for punishment. And I hope that you're not. So I just wanted to say that. But brothers, I do appreciate you guys, man, for really coming on and being able to share your thoughts. I know it has not gone in vain. I do appreciate that. We got to have more discussions like this in the upcoming future. So thank you, brothers, so much.
Thanks for having
Thank you. Thank you, man.
All right, brother.
God bless y'all. We love y'all.
Yes, sir. Appreciate y'all.
All right.
So you guys heard it all right there from the brothers-in-law, brother Eric Muldrow. Please go to their YouTube channels, like their channels, subscribe to their channels, support their ministries. These brothers definitely know what they're talking about. I vouch for them. They definitely are doing the work for their communities and ultimately for the kingdom of God. So please also, if you don't mind, please like, subscribe, and share this video. Please let people know how they can find this information just by typing in BCV podcast. You can do that. Also, you like to support the ministry, again, financially, you can do that as well through the donation links below at the bottom of the video. BCV merchandise, bottom of the video as well. Love, Life, and Marriage with the Woods. We had a great Q&A discussion this past weekend. Please go check that out. You can please also subscribe to that channel. We're trying to build up that channel and that subscription base. That way we can just have lives done on that particular channel as well. So thank you all so much. We do appreciate that. You guys have a great day. Y'all know the drill. Whatever you do all to the glory of God.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.